Hallo zusammen! Finally! The guys in Rammstein have released their first new single since Mein Land on their greatest hits compilation Made in Germany, and that was released in 2011, 8 years ago. So far, it's safe to say that their brand new single Deutschland, which means Germany, provokes many people once again, so in a way, nothing new on that end of the line. But, of course, we can talk about the lyrics, what they translate to in English, and how they could possibly relate and fit to what's shown in the highly effed up music video. And I mean that in a good way, honestly. I mean, what a freaking complex and great video that is. Alright, let's talk about Deutschland by Rammstein. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to include snippets or portions of the video and the song in this video. But don't worry. If you have two screens, put this video on one screen and the music video on the other screen. That way you can easily listen to the song and jump to the respective parts I'm talking about while watching this video on the other screen. A very first cool stylistic device that runs through large portions of the almost 5.5 minutes long track is the use of what I call ping-pong statements or parrot vocals. And because they are used very often, they are a trademark element of the song, a part of the song's backbone, I'd say. Till Lindemann sings a word and it's being repeated and played with in the breaks between this and a new word. This becomes apparent right away in the very first and also very distinct line. Du hast, du hast, du hast. You have, you have, you have. Which of course is a self-reference to their 1997 hit song Du hast, and as I've already explained in my respective analysis video of that awesome song, the sound of those two words without any other context implies an ambiguous meaning. To cut it short, it could either be understood as Du hast, you have got, or Du hast, you hate. As you can see, the latter option is spelled differently, but they do sound exactly the same. This is a very good example of how focused and condensed Till Lindemann's lyricism can be. The second line is a semantic continuation of the first one. Again, we have the parrot vocals, meaning the repetitions in the background. Combined, these two lines mean Du hast viel geweint. You have cried a lot. Im Geist getrennt. Separated within or inside the spirit, meaning mentally separated. Im Herz vereint. Unified inside the heart, meaning emotionally. This contrast between rationality and emotions is a recurring factor in the song, which basically is about Germany and the very diverse history we've been and gone through as Germans. I think Till refers to a sort of cognitive dissonance many Germans still have regarding Germany and feeling German. From my experience, many Germans have a hard time feeling something like, well, call it national pride, which is not to be confused with pure nationalism, by the way, or feeling good about being German because of, obviously, what's happened in the past. This would also correlate with many scenes in the music video. For instance, it shows execution scenes during World War II and the Third Reich, which are subject to much debate on various levels at the moment, and without going into too much detail regarding this, I personally am very sure that Rammstein would never implement such scenes in order to mock victims of the Holocaust, especially considering it's pretty safe to say they rather belong to the left political spectrum in comparison, according to a couple of interviews and especially their own song Links 2, 3, 4, which states this musically as well. I mean, of course it's highly provocative, and that's supposed to be, because, you know, it's Rammstein, after all. Duh. Since Till basically concludes this contrast with Im Herz vereint, I think the lyrical eye likes being German, but they are still aware of what happened and what's supposed to be prevented from happening again. I believe this is pretty much the big meta message of the song as a whole, if you will. It's totally okay, it's totally fine to feel Deutsch, German, but it's also important to know about the past and being aware of that. Next up, he mentions the long history Germany has had. Here's a little short and brief history lesson if you want. The country you know as Germany, Deutschland, today exists like this since 1990. However, there were loads of different incarnations of Germany before, also under slightly different names. Apart from long ago Germanic times, which are addressed at the beginning of the video, Till and the band tackle Der Dreißigjährige Krieg, the 30 Years' War, which happened from 1618 to 1648. It very roughly had to do with Catholics fighting Protestants. Another one that comes to mind immediately is Das Heilige Römische Reich Deutscher Nation, the Holy Roman Empire of German Nation, which rather was a cluster of many little territories and regional states than a single big country. And believe it or not, it existed from 962 AD to 1806, so more than 800 years. We should also mention Das Deutsche Reich, the German Empire, which existed from 1871 to 1918. Then we have the Weimar Republic, die Weimarer Republik, which lasted from 1918 to 1933, which was a republic, as the name actually hints as well. And then we have the Third Reich, which lasted from 1933 to 1945 under the reign of Adolf Hitler. Throughout the video, we also see certain scenes which seem to be located or take place in an office-like room. This refers to the Stasi, the Staatssicherheitspolizei, the secret police in the GDR, the former Second Germany, the DDR. The way it looks in this scene also refers to the former GDR president Erich Honecker. As you might know, the Germany we know today was separated into two different Germanys from 1949 to 1990. There was West Germany, the Bundesrepublik Deutschland, and East Germany, the Deutsche Demokratische Republik. And in 1990 they reunified to the Germany we know today. Of course, there's much more I could say about Germany's history and references made in the video and the song itself, but one more thing I'd like to refer to is the Germania. As an old allegory figure, she has portrayed the personified Germany, if you will. Interestingly enough though, the intended meaning of her as a figure has shifted quite a lot during various times in the German history. For instance, around 1848 she was seen as a progressive, positive figure leading Germany into a bright future. She later became more nationalistic during the German Empire, and she was even used for war propaganda in those days. And of course, in a way it's interesting that the lady in the video is black. I'm personally not too sure what this could refer to, but maybe you've got a constructive clue. I don't think it's about racism and how Germans feel about black people, because when I think of the vast majority of Germans I personally know and that I know of from media and whatnot, they don't have anything against strangers and, well, people with a different skin color or something like that. Not at all. Anyway, coming back to the lyrics. Wir sind, we are. Sind schon sehr lang zusammen. And then, ihr seid. Have been or are together for a long time now. You are. Dein Atem kalt, so kalt. Your breath cold, so cold. Das Herz in Flammen, so heiß. The heart in flames, so hot. Du kannst. You can. Ich weiß. I know. Wir sind. We are. Ihr bleibt. You stay. Even though these lines only consist of a few words, they are quite cryptic even, or enigmatic, I think. The contrast between these two sides is really interesting. We and you, us and them pretty much. Again, I'm not too sure, but it could refer to us Germans existing in the here and now, the present, we are, and that we'll also exist in the future, you stay, but maybe in a different way, in a different society, who knows? Neutrally speaking, there are always changes in the way we live, and that's certainly also inherent in culture, and what culture is. On the other hand, it wouldn't be such a strong semantic contrast that way though. The chorus once again depicts the inner conflict some Germans have regarding their national identity and how they feel about being German in 2019. Deutschland, mein Herz in Flammen. Germany, my heart in flames. Will dich lieben und verdammen. Want to love you and condemn you. Deutschland, dein Atem kalt. Germany, your breath cold. So jung und doch so alt. So young and yet so old. If you ask me, very cool, thought-provoking lyrics. The end obviously relates to what I've mentioned about Germany's history, and the cold breath could relate to bad or negative things people from outside of Germany sometimes hear about how Germans seemingly are. It basically means to me that there is both light and shadow regarding the way the world looks at Germany and what different groups of Germans have to say these days, and how they tend to voice their opinion. Many people feel positive and like home here, and also German in their heart, but we also hear a loudly barking group of people who don't want to or accept a multicultural group of people, a multicultural society in any way, shape or form. Now that I think about cold breath, it could also refer to the Cold War, der Kalte Krieg, during the times of the two separated Germanys which I've just tackled. Either way, the chorus continues as follows. Deutschland, deine Liebe. Germany, your love. Ist Fluch und Segen, is both a blessing and a curse. Deutschland, meine Liebe. Germany, my love. Kann ich dir nicht geben, I can't give to you. Deutschland, Germany. Deutschland, Germany. Deutschland, meine Liebe kann ich dir nicht geben could refer to people who feel misunderstood in their national pride and how they are, well, allowed to show it, and if they are allowed to show it, they might feel a bit suppressed by others because they might say, oh well, you're a nationalist, and you know, those things. They have a strong appreciation for their country and their culture and, well, their German identity, but they might feel like they aren't allowed to show it publicly. And neutrally speaking, this doesn't necessarily have to be associated with bad things. For instance, we all know when the German national football team plays, fans might very well shout something like Deutschland vor, noch ein Tor. Go Germany, score another goal. Now off to the second verse. Ich, du hast. I, you have. Ich will dich nie verlassen. Du weinst. I don't ever want to leave you. You cry. Man kann dich lieben. Du liebst. One can love you. You love. Und will dich hassen. Du hasst. And want to hate you. You hate. This is exactly what I mentioned earlier about the sound of du hast versus du hast with a double S. Überheblich, überlegen. Arrogant, superior. Übernehmen, übergeben. Taking over, handing over. Überraschen, überfallen. Surprising, hijacking. Deutschland, Deutschland über allen. Germany, Germany above everyone. No surprise here, this line is one of the most critical ones for many people, I could assume. It indeed strongly reminds of the historic statement, and I quote, Deutschland, Deutschland über alles. Über alles in der Welt. Germany, Germany above all, above everything in the world. This is a part of a verse in the German national anthem we don't sing anymore, and it's commonly associated with the motto of the Nazi reign as well. Invade and reign hard to be the first, the mighty leader in the world and be better than everyone else. Oppress them and whatnot. Be above them all, so to speak. The bridge features even more words that begin with the prefix über, above. They translate to this. Du, übermächtig, überflüssig. You, overpowered or superior, and superfluous or unnecessary. Ich, Übermenschen, überdrüssig. I, overman or Übermensch, wary of something. Wir, wer hochsteigt, der wird tief fallen. We, the one who flies high, will fall deep down. Ihr, Deutschland, Deutschland über allen. You, Germany, Germany above all. The lyrical I clearly belongs to the we instead of the you, the others, so I think they don't really agree with the Germany, Germany above everything and all speech. This also correlates with the song Mein Land, which translates to my country, and it's an ironic take on the whole "oh, this is my territory, you're not allowed in here" thing. I personally think Till has tried to address that there's an inner and an outer, a public conflict between how different Germans perceive their own German identity and how they show that to other people, how they treat others as Germans in their own society in Germany. All this is also underlined by showing historic events and referring to them, of course in a more abstract and creative way, but hey, and the heavy use of personal pronouns indicating various perspectives not only here, but throughout the song. If you want to check out my immediate first reaction to the song, click here and also feel free to watch my other videos about Rammstein songs, what they are about and more. Thanks for your interest in this song as well, and of course in Rammstein's first new album in 10 years, which is gonna be released on May 17th. Thanks for watching everyone, I'm your Vlog Dave, tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal. Hallo zusammen! It's unbelievable but true, Rammstein just premiered their second new song Radio on some radio stations, including German radio stations. And of course I took the opportunity to listen to the song and to write down the lyrics so that I can translate them to English for you guys, which I'm gonna do in this video, and I'm gonna explain them, gonna give my interpretation of what this song Radio could be about and more. So let's do that. Those of you who have watched my other Rammstein-related videos, including my Deutschland analysis, might know that I'm not allowed to include the actual audio, the actual song in this video, which of course I would love to, but that's not possible out of copyright reasons, so yeah, I'm sorry about that. If I can find a legal source of listening to the song Radio by now, Radio, I'm gonna put that into the video description, but other than that, you can definitely listen to that song tomorrow on Friday the 26th of April anyway. But actually, before we're gonna translate the lyrics, let me translate the title and also two little snippets, two little statements the band have advertised or promoted this song with beforehand. So let's begin with that. The term Radio is a German noun, and it's actually very similar to the English equivalent radio. It's das Radio, singular, die Radios, plural. However, the pronunciation is slightly different, not only regarding the R sound, but also in regards to the vowels A and O, A and O. In German, it's a standard A sound you'd also find in many other German words. The same goes for the letter O at the end. The emphasis on the first syllable is similar in both languages. Radio. As you might have seen on social media, Rammstein have advertised and promoted this new song premiere with mainly two German statements. The first one is Lass dich in den Äther saugen. Let yourself be sucked into the airwaves, or the ether. In the German statement, der Äther is a singular form. In English, you'd usually use the airwaves as a plural term. The second promotional statement is Heute Nacht ein wenig froh, dein Ohr ganz nah am Weltempfänger. Tonight a little bit or quite happy, your ear very close to the multiband radio or shortwave receiver. The term der Weltempfänger, singular, die Weltempfänger, plural. The English literal translation would be the world receiver, which sounds equally cool to the German term, I think. And I'd totally bet that most young Germans might not even have heard about this one at all, me included. I actually had an idea as to what it could mean because of the term Empfänger in this compound word, which is receiver in English, and I was actually right about that, but the term itself, der Weltempfänger, isn't really gebräuchlich, common or commonly used in daily German. Let's actually take a look at the lyrics, the translated lyrics to Radio by Rammstein. The song begins with the first verse. Wir durften nicht dazugehören, nichts sehen, reden oder hören, doch jede Nacht für 1-2 Stunden bin ich dieser Welt entschwunden. Jede Nacht ein bisschen froh, mein Ohr ganz nah am Weltempfänger. We weren't allowed to belong or be a part of it, not seeing or don't see, read or listen, but for 1 or 2 hours every night I escaped this world. A little bit happy every night, my ear very close to the shortwave receiver. Here, the lyrical eye sings about their memories being a child and not being allowed to listen to the radio all day long. I'm pretty sure this is set in the 1950s to 1960s primarily, maybe also in the 1940s, when the radio was still a major part of people's lives and also a state-of-the-art technical device. For instance, I personally know from my grandparents who were born in the 1930s that when they were children and young teens, their parents would sit down with them in front of the radio and listen to broadcasts of audio plays, which are a big thing in Germany, basically recorded stories spoken by various voice actors. And of course, they also listened to music shows. But of course, later in the day, the parents would most probably want to listen to certain radio shows alone without their children, which also had to go to bed at that point. However, the kids still secretively listened to the radio without getting noticed by their parents, for instance by standing close to the door with the radio playing next door or so. And I'm pretty sure that this is the basic context of the verses and the song in general. It's an obvious, a clear homage, a tribute to the glorious radio days and also this feeling of community as a family and listen to radio as being a family event in the literal sense. All this also gets underlined in the chorus, which also deals with the love of listening to the radio and paying a tribute to this sound nostalgia, if you will. Radio, mein Radio, ich lass mich in den Äther saugen, meine Ohren werden Augen. Radio, mein Radio, so höre ich, was ich nicht seh, stille heimlich, fernes Weh. Radio, my radio, I let myself get sucked into the airwaves. My ears become eyes. Radio, my radio. This way I can hear what I don't see. Secret silence, distant longing or distant pain. For fernes Weh being a play on the term Fernweh, das Fernweh. And oh boy, what a fancy catchy chorus that is, honestly. Quite unexpected at the same time though, because it's not the heaviest part in the song. It's a little bit quieter and more melodic driven as opposed to being all about heaviness, but honestly, man, that vocal line is so addictive. Great stuff and also very nice and very easy to sing along to, especially in a live environment I could see fit. The second verse goes: Wir durften nicht dazugehören, nichts sehen, reden oder stören. Jedes Liedgut war verboten, so gefährlich, fremde Noten. Doch jede Nacht ein wenig froh, mein Ohr ganz nah am Weltempfänger. We were not allowed to belong or to be a part of it, not seeing, reading or disrupting. Every musical heritage was forbidden. Foreign notes so dangerous. But every night a little bit happy, my ear very close to the shortwave receiver. The first two lines seemingly haven't changed, which isn't true though, because here we have stören instead of hören. Stören is a verb that actually fits the situation I just talked about with the children, because in the evening hours when the children are supposed to be sleeping, they are not supposed to interrupt or disrupt their parents, who might very well be listening to a radio show. Here I think another dimension gets added, the Cold War days and the two opposing sides, the West, der Westen, and the East, der Osten, both being the seemingly foreign, very evil enemy. Thinking more about the 1940s and the 1950s in specific, this could also probably tackle some Germans in those days that had, well, or that were quite critical regarding the influence of the Besatzungsmächte, the Allied powers that were stationed in Germany after World War II. And because of that, some Germans might not have accepted to listen to English songs on German radio stations, who knows. So I think this could also refer to those people and Germans who generally don't like foreign music or music with lyrics in a language other than German. And in that sense, this could also be in a way projected to current times, to the present. And therefore that might also be a semantic bridge to Deutschland and to the whole topic about, well, feeling German and how to deal with foreign influences and that kind of stuff. But maybe I'm going too far here, I don't know. I want to highlight the quite outdated yet very cool sounding noun das Liedgut, which doesn't seem to have a direct English equivalent as far as I can tell. It's sort of an old German term for musical goods in a very traditional and prestigious way, prestigious German songs that have been around for, well, many decades and centuries even. So, for instance, Germans who are very proud of their own identity, their national identity, and also of old traditional songs, they might refer to them as deutsches Liedgut, prestigious German traditional songs, in a way. It's mostly rather old and important songs you'd refer to as Liedgut. Translated literally, it means song good. So, that kind of fits. The build-up to the instrumental bridge, which highly reminds of Kraftwerk, especially because of Flake's keyboard track, translates to this. Jede Nacht ich heimlich stieg, auf den Rücken der Musik. Leg die Ohren an die Schwingen, leise in die Hände singen. Jede Nacht und wieder flieg ich einfach fort mit der Musik. Schwebe so durch helle Räume, keine Grenzen, keine Zäune. Every night I stealthily climbed onto the music's back, put the ears onto the wings, silently singing into my hands. Every night and once again I fly away with the music, levitating through bright rooms, no borders, no fences. I'd say this not only talks about the concept of music crossing borders and ideologies, but it once more refers to the time frame I could see fit for this song's setting. the times of the Cold War and the separated two Germanys, which were separated states from 1949 to 1990, when they reunited to the Germany we know today. The members of Rammstein originate from the former GDR, East Germany, so this definitely could be a highly personal story, drawn from personal experiences. Because, as far as I know, people in the GDR weren't allowed to consume West German goods or listen to West German radio for the most part. But of course, some citizens also found ways to do so anyway, and they also enjoyed the English songs which are commonly played on German radio stations nowadays. So when Rammstein talk about foreign songs, that could both refer to foreign German songs, songs that were made or, well, composed by bands from West Germany when you're listening from East Germany, that is, or the other way around, or, well, foreign songs in the sense of not being German songs. In this ambiguous context, the normal term Weltempfänger, the world receiver taken literally, definitely makes sense in more than just one way. So in that sense also very ambiguous, once again, and very cool lyrics, I think. And although that might seem strange, I sort of feel the personal nostalgia of the guys in those old times, because I also grew up listening to the radio and watching a bit of TV here and there. Because back in the early 90s, I was born in 1991, the internet was still very young and we didn't have any smartphones, cell phones, whatever you want to call them, tablets, that kind of stuff. That didn't exist back then, so those things were the main media things to go to, if you will. My favorite lines are definitely Ich lass mich in den Äther saugen, meine Ohren werden Augen. I love stuff like that. Simple but clever. Subsequently, Radio by Rammstein is not only an homage to the radio and everything related to that, but also to music being consumed in a very conscious way, I think. Of course, I'm gonna keep releasing Rammstein-related videos in the future as well, for instance for their new album, which is gonna drop on May 17th next month, not too long in the future, so I'm totally looking forward to that. That's shortly before Rock am Ring will take place, by the way, the big German rock festival that I'm gonna attend the second time. And this year at Rock am Ring, Tool are one of the headliners, and it's gonna be my first time seeing them live. They're one of my all-time favorite bands, so I'm really psyched about that. I'd love to see Rammstein live at some point as well, although I didn't really have the chance yet, would really love to. Hope that's gonna work out someday in the future. And well, why did I mention Tool in this Rammstein-related video? Because there is actually a concert that both, well, sort of did together. It was actually a Tool show, and Rammstein came on stage for, I think, the midsection for Lateralus. And Schneider, the Rammstein drummer, actually played drums along to Danny Carey, the Tool drummer. And, well, they also lit something on fire. You can see everything about that in the video description in the linked video down there. That's really cool as well. So I think the Tool guys also like the Rammstein guys and vice versa, which I think is awesome. As awesome as you guys for watching my videos, not only my Rammstein related videos, but in general. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to share it with other people that might also be into Rammstein, for instance, on social media, with your friends that are into this band or that just want to learn something about the German language and culture. Feel free to do that. That's highly appreciated, and I can't thank you enough for doing that in advance. So, kudos, thank you very much, and also thanks for watching. I'm your Vlog Dave. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal. Hallo zusammen. Now that the 7th studio album Rammstein by Rammstein is out everywhere in the world, and we all had a chance to listen to the album, I guess more than just once, let's dive deeper into the actual songs on the album. As you might know if you've watched my previous videos about Rammstein and their new songs, I've already tackled Deutschland and the respective music video. The same is true for Radio, and I've also analyzed the leaked lyrics of Puppe, back then leaked of course. So let's dive into the album more chronologically this time. Let's talk about the third song, Zeig dich. What is it about? What could the lyrics be translated to? And what do I think about them? What they are about and what not? Let's do that. First of all, the title Zeig dich is an Aufforderung. Die Aufforderung Singular, die Aufforderungen Plural, the demand. The addressed person is supposed to do something, basically. Zeig dich translates to either show or reveal yourself, depending on the implication. Since it contains the informal personal pronoun dich, you or yourself, the lyrical I seems to be addressing someone who is close to them or someone they know personally. At least you could get that impression. A formal form of address in this context would be zeigen Sie sich, for Sie being the standard formal form of address when you don't know a person, and /or out of respect and politeness. For instance, as long as you're not friends with your boss, or it's actually common to use the du form in your company when you talk to each other, you would most definitely say Sie. If you want to learn more about du and sie, how these terms actually differ from each other and what they are about, how to use them in the German language, feel free to watch my German lesson on that topic. If you've also watched my other videos about several Rammstein songs and the band in general, you will know that I keep naming Till Lindemann's love for ambiguous words and phrases in Rammstein's lyrics. However, funny enough, I find this song to be a bit less ambiguous compared to many other Rammstein tracks. It still contains two-sided metaphors and the like though. So here's what the initial lyrics sung by the choir translate to in both English and German. Well, to be honest, I'm not really sure, because I'd say it's an artificial kind of Latin they've used here, so I can't really translate that. I mean, a term like crucifixus is related to das Kruzifix, the crucifix, and lumine seems to be related to das Licht, the light, which also gets mentioned later on, but other than that, I can't really say what all this is referring to. But maybe you have an idea though, or your own interpretation. What is special about the actual German verses in this song is that even though each line is a combination of singular words, some of these pairs of words directly relate to each other and create a combined meaning. So the following terms are either verbs, adjectives or nouns, which also tells us that the recurring prefix ver can be found in many types of words in the German language. All following verbs might as well be expressed or translated as present participles in English. So, because of that, in this first verse I'm primarily using the infinite verb forms, whereas I'm using the present participles for following verses, simply to show both forms. So here's the first verse. Verlangen, verfluchen, verdammen, Versuchung, Verdammnis, Versprechen, verüben Sie Verbrechen, Verheißung, verkünden, Vergebung aller Sünden, verbreiten und vermehren im Namen des Herrn. Desire, to curse, or combined cursing desire. We don't really know if it's one or multiple desires without the article though. It's either das or die Verlangen. To damn, temptation. Die Versuchung, singular. Die Versuchungen, plural. Damnation, to promise, or promising damnation in that sense. Die Verdammnis, singular. Die Verdammnisse, plural. They commit crimes, which is a linked phrase, so to speak. Das or die Verbrechen, the crime. Promise, proclaim, or proclaiming the promise. Die Verheißung, singular. Die Verheißungen, plural. Absolution or remission of all sins, which again is a linked phrase. Each word is related to each other. Die Vergebung, singular. Die Vergebungen, plural, the absolution or remission, and die Sünde, singular, die Sünden, plural, the sin. The last two lines are connected as well, to spread and to procreate in the name of the Lord. For des Herrn being the genitive singular form of der Herr, Mr., which again refers to der Mann, singular. In a religious, fixed German Christian phrase like im Namen des Herrn, in the name of the Lord, der Herr commonly refers to the Christian God. You can find both spellings either with or without an E at the end of Herrn in German. Even though these two lines might not even be seen as something primarily negative, because spreading and procreating increases the number of people, they truly refer to something negative and delicate here. I guess you've all heard of the many religious Missbrauchsskandale, abuse scandals, especially in the Roman Catholic Church and directly related Christian institutions. These were brought to the surface, meaning made public, more and more often and regularly in recent years. Many priests both allegedly and proved have abused children in religion welfare institutions, sometimes for many years. And while I don't want to start a big discussion on these things right here, and also since frankly there's not too much to debate about this behavior at all, I, of course, want to state that I'm also shocked by these things and thoroughly appreciate that a band like Rammstein, who's kind of known for addressing these highly delicate topics in their songs, doesn't shy away from dealing with this topic either, even though it might be provocative to some, because obviously they do this in a rather direct and upfront way. At the end of the verse, Till sort of balances the usual pronunciation of the verb vermehren and Herrn, which sound similar regarding their vowels, but vermehren contains a so-called Dehnungs-H, a prolonging or stressing H, which results in a longer verbalization of the vowel E, vermehren. In Herrn, however, we have the exact opposite, so to speak, a double consonant R which shortens the verbalization of the vowel E, Herrn. So in a daily German context, we Germans would verbalize this like verbreiten und vermehren im Namen des Herrn, whereas Till very slightly stresses the first E in Herrn in order to make both terms sound a bit more rhyming, I guess. It's a really minor detail though. The lines Verdammnis, Versprechen, verüben Sie Verbrechen pretty much sum up the whole first verse to me. If one was to express this in a colloquial saying, the lyrical eye could also have said, "These priests don't practice what they preach," in a quite cynical way, of course. They tell and warn of damnation if you live a very sinful life, yet these priests' own moral compasses obviously are more than just a little bit twisted and tilted, if I may say so. The line Vergebung aller Sünden therefore is ambiguous in the context of these lyrics. The priests are able and expected to wipe away all sins from believers, yet some of the priests tend to live very sinful lives themselves. We Germans call this kind of behavior die Doppelmoral, which is a singular term, whereas in English it's a plural term, double or two-sided morals, translated literally, which means double moral standards. Singer Till, respectively the lyrical eye, then continues with a short, shouted "Zeig dich!" And while you can very well use both translations, I'd personally go with "show yourself" in this case, and I'm also gonna tell you why. To be honest, the first time I listened to the song as a whole, I didn't really draw the connection at all. I didn't really get what "Zeig dich" would refer to, or to whom that would refer. Who is addressed here? So, of course, after I've listened to the song a couple of times, I actually got the connection. Also because that is actually answered in the actual song later on. But let's get into that a bit later. First though, here comes the second verse, which goes Verstecken, verzichten, verbrennen und vernichten, Verhütung verboten, verstreuen Sie Gebote, Verfolgung verkünden, Vergebung der Sünden, verbreiten, sich vermehren im Namen des Herrn, hiding, abstaining or relinquishing, burning and destroying, contraception or birth control prohibited, for die Verhütung Singular, die Verhütungen Plural. They scatter commandments, for das Gebot Singular, die Gebote Plural. Proclaiming prosecution, die Verfolgung Singular, die Verfolgungen Plural. Forgiveness, absolution or remission of all sins. Spreading and procreating in the name of the Lord. Again, this verse addresses the bilateral moral ethics certain priests and other religious child abusers seem to have and live according to. This line states the proclamation of prosecution, which not only ironically, but more so cynically, has taken certain religious Würdenträger, der, plural die Würdenträger, the dignitary, and related institutions quite a while, for instance when it comes to really paying attention to what victims have to say. The same can surely be said about a certain hesitant reaction when it comes to solving these mysterious cases of child abuse, for instance by just slowly making cases public and only bringing information and evidences to the public table bit by bit. However, I'd say it's this line in specific which indirectly ascends the overall expressiveness of this verse to a meta level, if you will. By mentioning the phrase Verhütung verboten, sexual contraception prohibited, the lyrical eye also criticizes the current Roman Catholic state of affairs regarding the unallowed use of condoms and similar contraceptives, which not only but primarily gets criticized regarding regions with a fast spread of dangerous sexual diseases like AIDS. Driving further down this religious road, from my experience, many people also draw a potential connection between the ordinary sexual urge human beings have, which might get exaggerated or lead to potential sexual abuses because priests are bound to a religious ruling that we Germans commonly call der Zölibat, the celibacy. Not only but especially a Roman Catholic priest, who by the way is der plural die Priester, also der plural die Pfarrer, has to swear never to have any loving relationship with another person, let alone to have sex or to get married while they work in high service as priests of the Roman Catholic Church. It's basically a Gelübde, das plural die Gelübde, the vow or solemn promise priest aspirants have to make when they officially get appointed as priests. By reaching the chorus, we finally find out what or whom the aforementioned Aufforderung "Zeig dich" actually refers to. In contrast to the verses, the chorus features less lines, yet sounds heavier and more pushing, more dringlich, urgent. It basically underlines both the wish and the urgency behind this demand. Show yourself, zeig dich, which is especially brought forward in the first line. Zeig dich, versteck dich nicht. Zeig dich, wir verlieren das Licht. Zeig dich, kein Engel in der Not. Kein Gott zeigt sich, der Himmel färbt sich rot. Show yourself, don't you hide. Show yourself, we are losing the light. Show yourself, no angel in time of need. No God shows, the sky turns red. So the chorus sort of contains both elements of the lyrical eye's wishful thinking at first and hope pretty much, and then realizing the reality later on. So both the song's title and this first line refers to the Christian God who is supposed to show themselves instead of hiding, to do something against the aforementioned terrible things which even have happened in the realms of the church. In addition, all this refers to various common attributes and associations related to the Christian God. In religious texts and verses, they are said to be gütig, gracious or affectionate, allmächtig, almighty, and allwissend, omniscient. And basically primarily a good God who has an interest in preventing harm and evil things from happening. However, since bad things keep happening, once again also in religious institutions, I think the lyrical eye feels a mixture of die Wut, anger, das Unverständnis, the lack of understanding, die Enttäuschung, the disappointment, die Hilflosigkeit, the helplessness, der Zweifel, the doubt, and die Verlogenheit, the dishonesty or mendacity on the church's side of things. Especially the second line, wir verlieren das Licht, we are losing the light, seems like an obvious statement relating to these feelings. But what could das Licht, the light, actually refer to? What could it mean in the context of the song? Either way, I think it's a pretty extensive metaphor, and I'm gonna tell you why. The light, which, when you think about it, basically is a bright element, a bright source of something surrounded by darkness. So, for instance, it could stand for all the morally good and normal social norms and rules we have as human beings, being good to each other, helping other people, etc. In short, doing good things and preventing bad things from happening. In general, the light might also stand for hope or a neutral belief in positive outcomes. In a specifically Christian religious context, it could as well refer to der Stern von Bethlehem, the Star of Bethlehem, the guiding light which in Christian mythology led die Heiligen Drei Könige, the three Magi, literally the three holy kings, to Maria and Joseph, respectively to baby Jesus. From a more general point of view, by hearing and reading more and more often about these aforementioned atrocities, we as people grow more and more angry and helpless, and we question the moral compass of certain religious men. The personal pronoun wir means we, so the lyrical eye is both talking about a larger group of Gläubige, der plural die Gläubige, the believer, and also about themselves actually wanting to believe and being a believer, yet they can't help but struggle with following the religiously preached moral system more and more because of these cruel cases. The line kein Engel in der Not refers to the absence of what we Germans call der plural die Schutzengel, the guardian angel, in those and other bad situations. By reaching the final line, the lyrical eye basically resignates and acknowledges its own helplessness and the lack of a helping God who would do anything in order to prevent child abuse and other bad things from happening. The sky turns red, which could be interpreted in many ways too. For instance, the sky usually turns red during dusk or sunset, which introduces the end of the day. Drawing an analogy to this situation, criminal acts like these could increasingly lead to the end of the once pretty influential and dominant role of the church and/or religion in a society, by giving a moral compass and rules to follow or to believe in. Red itself is a very figurative and expressive complex color. It stands for romances and love, which of course would be a cynical twist in the basic situation we're faced with in this song. It also stands for a warning, a color of prohibition and lines which should definitely not be crossed. And since it's der Himmel, the sky, in a religious context here, which turns red, it could mean the supposedly good and positive moral ethics given to believers by God turn out to be not so good and positive after all. Or, which would be sort of the ultimate form of helplessness, it could mean that even God and the angels, even though they might have good intentions, can't prevent these things from happening, which in turn would again question the usual religious principles of an almighty and powerful God, who is said to be and able to handle all and everything. So last but not least, let's take a closer look at the third verse. Verfehlung, verfolgen, Verführung, vergelten, Vergnügen, verpönt, verlogen und verwöhnt, aus Versehen sich an Kindern vergehen, verbreiten und vermehren im Namen des Herrn. Looking into or pursuing misconduct or breach of regulations. For verfolgen, to follow or to chase, in the sense of etwas nachgehen, to look into things, for instance evidences in a criminal investigation. And it's die Verfehlung, singular, die Verfehlungen, plural. Repaying or requiting temptation, die Verführung, singular, die Verführungen, plural. Pleasure or amusement frowned upon, das plural, die Vergnügen. Dishonest and petted or spoiled. Sexually abusing children by accident. For aus Versehen meaning by accident, so both lines are directly connected. Spreading and procreating in the name of the Lord. Aside from my appreciation for the band tackling this topic in the first place, I really enjoy the arrangement of this song. I love the fact that they didn't introduce the chorus right after the first verse, yet they teased it by playing the pre-chorus with Zeig dich. Because this way they not only raise questions and make you think who is supposed to show or reveal themselves, well, if you understand German, I guess. No, they also create a pretty cool atmosphere, which gives you time to think about this and to reflect on things, and it also builds up anticipation for a powerful chorus. So of course I'd like to know a couple of things. What is your opinion on the song? Did you like it at first, and what was your initial impression like? What do you think about the lyrics and about the band tackling this very delicate topic? After having listened to the album multiple times by now, I can truly say that this one is one of my favorite tracks on the album as a whole. Of course, you're also invited to watch my other videos about the German language and culture and Rammstein related videos, including, well, language-related things, explanations of certain metaphors in the song, of certain words that Till Lindemann likes to use, and the lyrics in general, translations, interpretations, and whatnot from a native German's perspective. Feel free to do that. You can find a clickable playlist with all my Rammstein-related videos right here, and thanks for doing that in advance, I guess. Thanks for watching anyway. And what is there left for me to say? Well, I'm your Vlog Dave. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal. Hallo zusammen.
Bonjour, mon ami.
Hola. ¿Qué tal?
Salve.
Yes, you're one. And I'm one too. We're all one. Or many, even? Well, I guess it also depends on where you are and who you're asking. Meine Damen und Herren, ladies and gentlemen, we're all Ausländer. That's an interesting and true thought, so let's celebrate this sophisticated cognition. Let's actually just talk about Rammstein's eponymously called track Ausländer with an umlaut, Ausländer. So what is this song actually about? What do the lyrics translate to in English, and how do, well, the German phrases used in this song translate to in another language? Let's find that out. The fourth track on the new self-titled album marks the third single release after the comeback song Deutschland and the groovy Radio. Quite untypical for Rammstein standards, this song has a quite well, dare I say, dancey, happy sound to it. I'd say I do know a little bit about music theory, but definitely not enough to tell if one reason for the slightly happy and shiny sound of this one could be a different, well, tonal mode, if you will. Songs in Dur, a major key, usually sound lighter and happier than tracks in Moll, meaning in a minor key. Anyway, Ausländer almost seems to me like a mixture of typical Rammstein ingredients melted together with traces of a typical electronic chart composition in 2019. Either way, it's one hell of der Ohrwurm, an earworm, the German term for a catchy tune that stays in your ear. Well, makes sense, I guess. To be quite honest with you, at first I wasn't the biggest fan of this track, because it sounded a bit off on the album as a whole, just from the atmosphere, from the mood of it. But then I started to appreciate it bit by bit, a bit more with each listen basically. And I wouldn't go as far to call it one of my favorite tracks on the album by now, but it definitely has grown on me a lot. Let's begin with the first verse, which goes: Ich reise viel, ich reise gern, fern und nah und fern. Ich bin zu Hause überall, meine Sprache international. Ich mache es gern jedem recht, ja, mein Sprachschatz ist nicht schlecht. Ein scharfes Schwert im Wortgefecht mit dem anderen Geschlecht. I travel much, I travel with joy, far away and close and close and far away. I'm anywhere at home. My language international, for die Sprache, Singular, die Sprachen, Plural, the language. I like to get along with everyone. Yes, my vocabulary, meaning my language knowledge, is quite rich, for der Sprachschatz, Singular, die Sprachschätze, Plural, the vocabulary or the knowledge of words. A sharp sword in the fight or battle of words, for das Wortgefecht, Singular, die Wortgefechte, Plural, literally word battle or battle of words, a rather poetic term for a vivid verbal discussion or debate, with or against the other sex or gender. Apart from a slightly tilted word order in the third line, which goes Ich bin zu Hause überall, whereas normally it would be Ich bin überall zu Hause, all of the lyrics are a mixture of poetic and normal expressions, if you will. And yes, Till Lindemann has done it once again. He knows how to play with people's expectations too. I'm pretty sure that before the song and the album were eventually released, many Germans might have assumed that this song could be about the current refugee crisis, immigration and foreigners in Germany and whatnot. And I would almost bet that some even thought it could be a very critical song about these topics. What can I say? Both assumptions couldn't be further away from the actual meaning. On the other hand, I have seen that many of you guys began to actually, or to especially enjoy this new song a lot, since it says Ich bin Ausländer, I'm a foreigner, and simply because of the title, I guess. And while I don't wanna, shatter anyone's appreciation for the song itself, I think the actual topic might surprise some of you a bit. So having dealt with the lyrics by and large, having read the lyrics multiple times as a native German, I guess it's safe to say that this song, Ausländer, foreigner, is about foreigners, yes, somehow, but most importantly, it's about sex tourism. However, and that's what I said a few moments ago, Till doesn't tell us right away what this song is most probably about. Instead, and in direct comparison to other parts of the song, this first verse remains rather vague and general, yet still descriptive and informative. It doesn't give away too much yet, which I really love. Especially the last two lines are very poetic and awesome as well, I think. The problem with these German lines is that it's not always possible to convey the poetic beauty of these words and, lyrical compositions simply by translating them to English, because of course some things might get lost in translation. I'd say as listeners, it's also important to remind ourselves of the difference between the lyricist, meaning the person who has written the lyrics, and the lyrical I, meaning the person living and acting in the song's lyrics. Because otherwise, this song and others could shed a, strange and questionable light on, for instance, Till in this case, I could imagine. The song then continues with a light and fancy sounding pre-chorus section, which interestingly enough consists of 5 instead of 4 lines, which you might expect. Well, it's a straightforward song. Ich bin kein Mann für eine Nacht. Ich bleibe höchstens 1-2 Stunden. Bevor die Sonne wieder lacht, bin ich doch schon längst verschwunden und ziehe weiter meine Runden. I'm not a man for just one night or for a one-night stand. I stay for 1 or 2 hours at most. Before the sun laughs, meaning rises again, I'm already long gone and make the rounds again. Now we learn more and more obviously about the seemingly intended meaning of the track. The phrase kein Mann für eine Nacht might also be expressed like kein Mann für einen one-night stand, which is an Anglizismus, an Anglicism we also use in modern German. It's der one-night stand, and technically there shouldn't be a plural form because it's a one-night stand. This whole section sounds so, well, happy and light, at least for Rammstein standards, and the middle line of this pre-chorus also reflects that lyrically. Before the sun laughs again, which indicates der Sonnenaufgang, the sunrise. The last line contains a form of the phrase seine Runden ziehen, respectively seine Runden drehen, to go around an area, to go out for a walk or to wander around. I'd say overall this pre-chorus section is the strongest and most obvious indication for the topic of a German sex tourist. I could also have started this video by saying something like, this song is dedicated to all those Germans who love to travel to Thailand each and every year. And I guess most of you wouldn't have gotten the reference I would have made there in that case, but many Germans would have. So what am I talking about here, and what does Thailand has to do with all this? Many Germans actually enjoy going to Thailand, traveling to Thailand each and every year, not just for cultural reasons, because it's a beautiful country, I guess, but also because, well, sex tourism. It's not like every German goes there in the first place, and not every German goes there just to have sex. Obviously that isn't true, but there are some Germans who do that. This might be a bit shocking to you, but it's true. Let's go on with the international chorus, if you will. Ich bin Ausländer, Ausländer, mi amor, mon chéri. Ausländer, Ausländer. Ciao ragazza, take a chance on me. Ich bin Ausländer, Ausländer, mon amour, and something Russian I can't really pronounce or say. Ein Ausländer, Ausländer. Come on baby, c'est la vie. I'm a foreigner, foreigner. My love, which is Spanish, and then my treasure, which is French. Foreigner, foreigner. Hi girl in Italian, and take a chance on me. I'm a foreigner, foreigner. My love in French. I love you in Russian. A foreigner, foreigner. Come on baby, it is the life in French. Fitting the meaning of the noun der Ausländer, singular, die Ausländer, plural, the foreigner, the chorus contains a mixture of 6 European, respectively international languages. The first one is Deutsch, German, ich bin Ausländer, etc. The second one is Spanish, Spanish, mi amor. The third one is Französisch, French, mon chéri. The fourth one is Italienisch, Italian, ciao ragazza. The fifth one is English, English, take a chance on me, etc. And the sixth one, which I didn't wanna butcher, is Russisch, Russian. Interestingly enough, when you think about it, it's all the non-German parts here which reveal most of the aforementioned overarching topic. And of course, it once more shows that we Germans can also be foreigners in other countries. I say that because, as you guys probably know, some people use terms like Ausländer and respective translations of these terms in other languages as a term to separate themselves from others or even to feel superior. Anyway, let's continue with the second verse. Andere Länder, andere Zungen. So hab ich mich schon früh gezwungen. Dem Missverständnis zum Verdruss, dass man Sprachen lernen muss. Und wenn die Sonne untergeht und man vor Ausländerinnen steht, ist es von Vorteil, wenn man dann sich verständlich machen kann. Once again, the plain word order in these verses is a bit off compared to standard German, so please don't take these lines and verses as a typical example for the ordinary German word order, because that's not the case here. However, of course, that's possible here because it's poetic. Other countries, other tongues, meaning languages. So early on I've forced myself to the displeasure of misunderstanding that you need to learn languages. And when the sun goes down and you stand in front of a female foreigner, it's an advantage when you then are able to communicate. Once more, interestingly enough, he sort of humanizes misunderstanding, the misunderstanding, das Missverständnis, Singular, die Missverständnisse, Plural, which is a normal noun in German, yet here it seems to be capable of feeling something like a human, and in this case, der Verdruss, the annoyance or displeasure, since, of course, it doesn't want you to get along through speaking more than just your mother tongue, for instance. Speaking of tongues, the very first line is an abstract take on the common German saying andere Länder, andere Sitten, other countries, other conventions or customs. For das Land, Singular, die Länder, Plural, the country, and die Sitte, Singular, die Sitten, Plural, the conventions, which is a plural term in English. Another typically German construction is the feminine term die Ausländerin, Singular, die Ausländerinnen, Plural, and in this case it's the plural term here. In German, we Germans very often have distinct forms of nouns for female animals and women. This usually is the case for instance, occupation terms like die Lehrerin, the female teacher, which then features a distinct suffix, in, en. However, it's also possible for other descriptive terms like die Ausländerin, the female foreigner. It's once again a proof of the flirting context of the lyrical ice experiences in das Ausland, only singular, abroad, or the foreign country. Apart from the repeated cool pre-chorus and chorus, the song ends with what advanced learners among you might consider rude or, well, at least not so nice at first. Du kommen mit, ich dir machen gut. You coming with me, I do make you good. Or something like that. It's sort of a one-on-one translation of the wrong German statement. This repeated sentence resembles what many Germans would associate with something, well, typical that foreigners would say when they try to speak German without being very proficient at it or without caring about speaking grammatically correct. But don't worry guys, I'm almost 100% sure that Till did not include this to mock any of you guys or other foreign Rammstein fans. No, it's just a stereotype which fits the context of the song and, well, a common linguistic cliché, so to speak, he decided to end the song with. A correct German way of saying this would be Komm mit mir, dann gebe ich es dir richtig. Come with me, I'm gonna give it to you the right way then. Yeah, quite dirty, yes, but then again, that's the potential topic of this song, if you ask me. And I know you do. So of course I want to know, what do you think about the song? Do you like it? And did you like it at the first listen? That is what I would really like to know, because maybe I'm in the minority here, but as I've said before, during my first listen, I didn't really enjoy the song too much in comparison to the other tracks, which doesn't mean that I thought it would be a bad song in the first place. No, definitely not. But as I've said before, now I actually like it quite a lot, and it has become a catchy tune in my ear for quite a couple of days now. Alright guys, stay tuned for more Rammstein videos in the near and distant future, both pretty much. And well, feel free to tell me what you would like to know about Rammstein, what you would like to learn about. Doesn't have to be related to the new tracks necessarily, but of course that might also be the case, who knows. Also feel free to share this video and my other Rammstein videos with other people if you want to do that, for instance on Reddit, with friends, or maybe with foreign foreigners. Does that make sense? With foreign Rammstein fans. Maybe that is a good way to put it. Who knows? What I do know is that this is the end of the video, so thanks for watching everyone. I'm your Vlog Dave. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal. Hallo zusammen! As part of my ongoing journey through the new Rammstein lyrics, we've arrived at song number 5 on the new album today. The song is called Sex, which itself isn't too out of the ordinary for Rammstein standards, I'd say. I don't think. But then again, let's find out what this song is about. If it's about what we all think it's about, or maybe not. Let's talk about Sex by Rammstein today. The song's overall structure isn't too complicated or too surprising in a way, but that doesn't have to mean something bad. It's just the way it is, the nature of the song, which is really groovy, really, well, swing-ish, I'd say, in a Rammstein way, which I really like when rock or metal music sounds like that, when it really has a groove to it, something you can, well, not really dance, but maybe move along to, and this is one of those songs. The riffing is awesome in this one. However, I'd say on the lyrical side of things, compared to most other Rammstein tunes, this one is a bit less ambiguous and more direct. What does that mean? Well, let's try to find that out. Let's take a look at the first verse of the swing or groove rock track. Ich seh dich an und mir wird schlecht, überall das dralle Fleisch. Ich schau dir tief in das Geschlecht und die Knie werden weich. 1000 Nadeln, das Verlangen, will Geruch mit Händen fangen. I look at you and it makes me sick, full-bodied or chubby flesh everywhere. I look deeply into your sex, or gender, or genitals, and the knees go or turn weak. 1,000 needles, the desire, want to catch smell with hands. From a German's perspective, there's especially one interesting term which can be found in the second line. Dralle, an inflected adjective directly related to Fleisch, flesh. And by the way, whereas in English you'd distinguish rather strictly between flesh and meat, we'd use the neuter noun das Fleisch for both human flesh and animal meat. It's a general term, so to speak. The infinite form of this adjective is drall, and even though it's not an extremely outdated German term, I don't think, you definitely won't hear this one in daily colloquial German overly often, if at all. It means, well, something like well-rounded or well-proportioned, something along these lines. Putting linguistic explanations aside for a moment, the very first line is just hilarious. It's not just the meaning itself, but also the way singer Till Lindemann conveys and verbalizes these terms with his dark and funny intonation. Love that. The third line is equally interesting, but from a more language-related standpoint this time around. In German, das Geschlecht, singular, die Geschlechter, plural, can be a very ambiguous term. It either means a person's biological sex, meaning the gender, it might also mean a linguistic gender in a rather colloquial way, and in a slightly shortened way it can also refer to das Geschlechtsteil, singular, die Geschlechtsteile, plural, the genital. Especially both these biological backgrounds I just mentioned really go hand in hand in this case. Ich schau dir tief in das Geschlecht. So, let's think about it. Does the lyrical eye simply take a direct look at the other person's genitals? Or do they reflect on that person's gender, related thoughts, or even stereotypes? Who knows? In a more indirect way, this sentence could also imply that they do some research on a person's family tree or heritage, that person's ancestry, so to speak. Translated literally, the line "und die Knie werden weich" would translate to "and the knees become or turn soft", which I guess could still be understood in the intended way. The noun das Knie, singular, die Knie, plural, is a very special one, and you might already be able to tell why. In written form, they look exactly the same. In fact, it's the pronunciation that differs and can tell us more about a singular or plural form, apart from a grammatical context, of course. Knie is singular and Knie is plural. Let's continue with the pre-chorus. Weiß, das Hirn kriecht in die Venen und es singen die Sirenen. eine Faust in meinem Bauch. Komm her, du willst es doch auch. No or white, the brain or mind crawls into the veins, and the sirens sing. A fist in my stomach, come here, you want it too. In German, the term weiß can either refer to the color white or to a conjugated form of the verb wissen, to know. For instance, in the first person singular, Präsens, simple present, indicative mode, active. Ich weiß, I know. Gotta be honest with you, I'm not too sure why this line opens with this term and why it introduces the whole phrase, but maybe you have a clue. It could imply something like I know or you have to know, du weißt Bescheid, something like that, but maybe it means something else. Who knows? Maybe you do. Similar to English, das Hirn, a synonym or alternate form of das Gehirn, singular, die Gehirne, plural, or die Hirne, plural, can either refer to the brain or, in a more abstract way, to the mind and spirit of someone, to the thoughts, so to speak. I mean, during sex, which undoubtedly is the core theme of the song, or at least, well, the big one, because I think there is another level about relationships and how both things work with each other, in a way. You basically shut off your brain, relax, and are emotional instead of reflecting and thinking too much. So I guess this might be a plausible meaning here. Since some like it a bit more, well, physically engaging, the fist in the stomach is a rather direct imagery, I'd say. Some might even go a bit too far in terms of exhaustion, so the sirens might start ringing here, well, as a warning for instance. And as it's the case in English, the German noun die Sirene, singular, die Sirenen, plural, can mean both a siren, meaning a mermaid singing on a rock or cliff, or simply a siren, a horn or emergency siren. The metaphor of a singing mermaid is often rather negatively connotated because this behavior is said to have lured sailors away from their course into disasters or even death. So that is a rather delicate thought here. A little interesting ambiguity, at least I think that could be the case here. The phrase du willst es doch auch, you want it too, or a similar form ich weiß, du willst es doch auch, I know you want it too, is a commonly known phrase in a rather erotic or sexual context, which can be found in some novels, lyrics, or prose. The following first chorus is a slightly shorter version of the second one, but up until that point they are exactly identical, so I'm gonna talk about the full version right away. Sex, komm zu mir, meins ist deins und das in dir. Sex, komm mit mir, denn besser widerlich als wieder nicht. Wir leben nur einmal. Wir lieben das Leben. Wir lieben die Liebe. Sex, come to me. Mine is yours and that in you. Sex, come with me, since it's better nasty than not again at all. We only live once. We love the life. We love the love. So counting like a typical German with my fingers, 1 and 3, those lines might be a bit confusing to foreigners, I could see fit, I could imagine, because they sound very, very similar, only one term is different. And we're talking about die Präposition singular, die Präpositionen plural, the preposition here. In the first case it's komm zu mir, come to me, whereas in the second case it's komm mit mir, come with me. The first one could be interpreted more one-sided, quite demanding even, while the second one is a bit more bilateral and could be seen as more positive, cause it might be referring to a more romantic kind of relationship. So I'm gonna throw in a personal opinion now. This chorus right here features both a few of my favorites and a few of my least favorite lines or lyrics on the entire album. For instance, I really love the line denn besser widerlich als wieder nicht. It sounds great because of the slightly phonetic similarity between widerlich, nasty, and wieder nicht, not again at all, in spoken German at least, and the bottom line is just hilarious. It's better to have really, really disgusting and nasty sex than none at all. In combination, I think it's a cleverly written lyrical phrase. On a side note here, Till could have made it sound even more similar by dropping the consonant T at the end of nicht, not, no one, not a or none, which commonly happens in daily colloquial spoken German anyway. You wouldn't spell it like that, of course, because that's not the typical form of this term, but in spoken colloquial German it's totally common to drop those consonants every here and there. On the other hand, you have lines like Wir leben nur einmal, and even though it's sort of the plural German equivalent to the slang term YOLO, you only live once in English, it really makes me think of calendar phrases and overgeneral sentences you might read on many postcards, etc. Nothing really outstanding or really thought-provoking, pretty much an empty phrase without a context. Arguably here you have some sort of context, you pretty much underline the importance or the joy of having sex in a way, but still, I don't know. In this context, in these lyrics here, I'm not a big fan of those kinds of phrases for the most part. So the second verse is shorter than the first one. It goes: Ich seh dich an und mir wird schlecht, heute fallen auf die Haut. Ich schau dir tiefer ins Geschlecht, Leib und Brüste gut gebaut. I look at you and it makes me sick, skins fall onto the skin. I look deeper into your genitals, sex or gender, body and breasts well built or well developed. I haven't mentioned that the first time, but the phrasing mir wird schlecht is different to the English it makes me sick from a syntactical point of view, the structure pretty much. A literal translation of the German phrase is me becomes or me gets sick. It's similar to expressions like mir ist kalt or mir ist warm, me is cold or me is hot, me is warm pretty much in that sense, which you would express differently in English. The second line, heute fallen auf die Haut, skins fall onto the skin, could imply that the lyrical I has sex with more than just one person at a time, since it's multiple skins that fall onto that one skin. Also, it might imply that the lyrical I might be the one that rather, well, how should I say it, the part that rather embraces the sex without being the dominant part, the active part, so to speak, being passive. But maybe that's going too far, I don't know. Now, the lyrical I looks even deeper into or at the other person's sex or genitals, so I think there's definitely some kind of interest in the other person, which might go beyond sort of a one-night standish type of sex. I don't know. The second pre-chorus is slightly different to the first one. It goes: Es ist ein Beben, ist ein Schwingen, und die Sirenen singen, ein Verlangen unterm Bauch. Komm her, denn du willst es doch auch. As you can see, it's once again subtle things that change here and there, and I think that really is a driving force of the song. Something is swinging and the desire is below the belly, and you know. When we finally take a look at the post-chorus or bridge section, the term ja is the German equivalent interjection to yes in English. It's as easy as that. So, overall, an interesting, really groovy track that contains quite a few playful and creative expressions while still being a bit more direct and not so ambiguous in comparison to many other Rammstein tunes. But once again, that doesn't mean anything in terms of evaluation or, well, me liking the song more or less. That's just a statement. So I wonder, what do you think about the song? I think overall on the album it's a solid tune, but I wouldn't call it one of my favorites necessarily, because I think there are stronger songs both in terms of musical arrangement, the composition, the hook lines, and also on the lyrical side of things, because I usually prefer lyrics that are more in-depth, more diverse in a way, and not perverse, haha. No, joking aside, which wasn't that funny anyway. It's a typical Rammstein song, but it's not too special in a way. But what do you guys think? I'd like to know, because I'm curious. It's music, and I love music, and it's Rammstein, I love Rammstein, and when both things combine, the universe explodes. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to get any Rammstein tickets for the upcoming 2020 tour. I tried to get some tickets for Berlin, for instance, but it's just not possible. Anyway, Thanks for watching and stay tuned for upcoming Rammstein lyric interpretation analysis videos like this one and even more stuff, other videos on this channel as well. Thanks for watching once again, I'm your Vlog Dave. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal. Hallo zusammen, I'm your Vlog Dave. Some brand new Rammstein lyrics have leaked, oh yeah. Well, it depends on what you associate with the term leaked, I reckon. They just surfaced the other day when the guys posted pictures of the actual artwork packaging for their upcoming album, which is gonna be released on May 17th. In a few of these official CD packaging photos you can see the full booklet page with complete lyrics for the songs Puppe and Zeig dich. So in this video I, a native German speaker, will translate the German lyrics of Puppe, explain a few special words and phrases and also give my own interpretation of what this track could be about. Because of that, this video itself won't feature too many pictures apart from the lyrics and their translation, so in any case, if you expect a visual masterpiece of an analysis video, well, this one might not be the one you're looking for. I'm sorry. But if you don't mind that, let's have some fun with the lyrics. Alright? Alright, let's go. The Rammstein song Puppe is 4 minutes and 33 seconds long, and it's the 6th of 11 tracks on the 7th seemingly self-titled Rammstein record. Wow, quite a few alliterations going on here. Why not? The title itself is an ordinary German noun, which can be translated to either the puppet or the doll. It's die Puppe, singular, die Puppen, plural. Now let's dissect the lyrics bit by bit in chronological order. The tune seems to start with the first verse. Wenn Schwesterlein zur Arbeit muss, schließt mich im Zimmer ein. Hat eine Puppe mir geschenkt, dann bin ich nicht allein. Wenn Schwesterlein zur Arbeit muss, fährt sie nicht mit der Bahn. Ihr Schaffensplatz ist gar nicht weit, ist gleich im Zimmer nebenan. When little sister needs to go to work, locks me up inside my room, gave me a doll so that I'm not alone. When little sister needs to go to work, she doesn't go by train. Her place of work is not that far away, it's the room next to mine. As you might have noticed, I've used a rather clunky phrase, when little sister needs to go to work. Why didn't I just say, when little sister goes to work? Well, because the German line goes, wenn Schwesterlein zur Arbeit muss, and the muss at the end is the English need. Sie muss zur Arbeit gehen. She needs to go to work. Already in this first verse, these lyrics seem quite ordinary at first glance, and especially for the first 5 or 6 lines, but then things intensify rapidly, yet in a subtle insecurity as to what all this might lead to. And even if it's just the first verse, I'd say Till Lindemann once again proves how sophisticated and well written his lyrics are. He manages to create an insecure atmosphere with indirect references people will still get at the end of the day, I mean, when they hear or read the lyrics, even though they aren't spoken out or written out loud or directly visible. The first interesting German term I should talk about is das Schwesterlein. It's a minimized form of the ordinary noun die Schwester, singular, die Schwestern, plural, the sister. In English you would translate this to little sister, as it's common for most minimized nouns, but this doesn't necessarily mean it's the lyrical I's younger sister in that sense. I mean, that could be the case, but it probably isn't, judging from the lyrical I being rather young themselves. I'm also pretty certain that the lyrical I, which is das lyrische Ich in German, is a little girl. Also because of the doll or the puppet reference. And the name of the song, I mean, you know, of course, some boys might also play with certain types of puppets. Well, no, not necessarily this puppet, but hey. The first verse deals with the sister's work or workplace, die Arbeit, the work, and der Arbeitsplatz, the workplace. However, since we're dealing with rather lyrical or poetic writing, and it sounds more elegant in this context, Till chose the uncommon yet ordinary noun der Schaffensplatz, singular, die Schaffensplätze, plural. It means the same, yet it's highly uncommon in comparison. But since it's an existing term, a compound word which consists of real German words, Germans will understand what he's aiming for. This term also fits in a different way because in German we have the phrase anschaffen gehen, which means to prostitute yourself. Up to this point, we don't really know for very sure what the sisters' work definitely is, but I'd say we've got a pretty good clue about it. The next 4 lines seem like sort of the first part to a pre-chorus, or they might actually be the chorus themselves, I don't know. Am Himmel dunkle Wolken ziehen, ich nehme artig meine Medizin und warte hier im Daunenbett, bis die Sonne untergeht. Dark clouds in the sky. Well behaved, I'm taking my medicine as I was told, and wait here lying in the eiderdown or the down feather bed until the sun goes down. And again a self-reference to the song Sonne, the Sun, and to the line Sie wird heut Nacht nicht untergehen. It's not going to go down tonight. Of course, the dark clouds set the mood once again and also underline the uncertainty on both our side as listeners and also for the lyrical eye. The potential little girl who seemingly doesn't understand why she has to be locked up in her room and what's going on in the room next to her anyway. Where's the connection? The upcoming 4 lines could be a continuation of the previous part, a potential chorus, or a shorter second verse between these and the upcoming 4 lines, which are a repetition of the part I've just talked about. Sie kommen und sie gehen, manchmal auch zu zweit. Die späten Vögel singen und die Schwester schreit. They come and they go, sometimes also in pairs. The late birds sing and the sister screams. By having reached this part of the song, the sisters' actual occupation should have become more than apparent to most listeners, I'd say. There are 2 terms in German we have for people with this job. The first one is die Prostituierte, singular, die Prostituierten, plural, the prostitute, or way more vulgar and also pejorative, die Hure, singular, die Huren, plural, the whore. Which, by the way, Rammstein have already sung about in a previous song too. The Spanish track Te quiero puta on Rosenrot translates to I love you whore, ich liebe dich Hure, if I'm not mistaken. The phrase die späten Vögel singen, the late birds sing, can be understood quite ambiguously as well. It's sort of the other side of the coin regarding the famous saying, der frühe Vogel fängt den Wurm, the early bird catches the worm. Since the sister works at dusk or in the evening, it's the late bird here. Also the term der Vogel, singular, die Vögel, plural, the bird, can be a pejorative term in German. You might hear some Germans say something like, das ist echt ein Vogel, that's a strange person or a mad person. Or, du hast doch einen Vogel, you're crazy, you're out of your mind. This meaning could also work when you think of some Freier, der Freier, singular, die Freier, plural, the wooer or suitor, meaning someone who goes to a prostitute and has sex with them. In this case, the visitors. Some of them might behave weird or have strange or really radical desires, also in the sense of hurting prostitutes for satisfaction, for instance, which might be indicated by the last line und die Schwester schreit and the sister screams. After the previously mentioned repetition of the part beginning with Am Himmel, the song really bursts at the seams. Der Song bricht aus allen Nähten. Und dann reiß ich der Puppe den Kopf ab, dann reiß ich der Puppe den Kopf ab. Ja, ich beiß der Puppe den Hals ab, es geht mir nicht gut. Ich reiß der Puppe den Kopf ab, ja, ich reiß der Puppe den Kopf ab. Und dann beiß ich der Puppe den Hals ab, es geht mir nicht gut. Nein. Dum dum. And then I tear the doll's head off. I'm tearing the doll's head off. Yes, I'm biting the doll's neck off. I'm not feeling well. I tear the doll's head off. Yes, I'm tearing the doll's head off. And then I'm biting the doll's neck off. I'm not feeling well. No. Dum dum. One might say it's rather monotonous, and that's certainly true, but I'd personally say it highlights and fits the lyrical eye's desperation and anger rather well. Yeah. Also notice the different body parts. Der Kopf, singular, die Köpfe, plural, the head, and der Hals, singular, die Hälse, plural, the neck or throat. This last original, probable second verse right before the just mentioned part gets repeated not only increases the already high anger intensity and helpless danger on both sides, the sister and the lyrical eye in their respective contexts, it also implies a potential action, another fatal action if you will. Wenn Schwesterlein der Arbeit frönt, das Licht im Fenster rot. Ich sehe zu durchs Schlüsselloch und einer schlug sie tot. Und jetzt reiß ich der Puppe den Kopf ab. Ja, ich reiß der Puppe den Kopf ab. Und dann beiß ich der Puppe den Hals ab. Jetzt geht es mir gut, ja. When little sister is at work, red lights in the window. I'm peeking through the keyhole. And one man beats her to death. Now I'm going to tear the doll's head off. Yes, I'm tearing the doll's head off. And then I'm biting the doll's neck off. Now I'm feeling well. Yes. Okay, things escalated very quickly on several levels here. Now we learn about the personification and the imagery of the puppet, die Puppe. And at the latest, this verse really mentions the actual occupation. In a very, well, more or less direct way, I'd say. The red lights directly refer to her prostitutional work, so to speak. And thanks to that line, I feel a desperate urge to listen to Roxanne by the awesome band The Police, which I love as well. The doll stands for the visitors, and this really violent one in particular, the killer of the Lyrical Eye's sister. Since she seemingly just got murdered, and I think the whole situation with the Lyrical Eye being locked in their room so that they wouldn't see or hear what's going on next door takes place in the here and now, meaning in the present, and while the sister just got killed, the Lyrical Eye actually seems to have killed the murderer as an act of revenge and hate just right there. Somehow. I mean, there is no direct or obvious evidence of this in the lyrics though, but when you argue with the doll representing the visitor, and, well, this murderous one in particular, it could work. Or maybe it's like the wish of the Lyrical Eye to kill them. Who knows? However, if that happened right there, right in the moment, I'm wondering about how they could escape from the locked room and peek through the keyhole in the first place. So yeah, maybe in the end this is rather meant as a dream or a fictitious situation, a wish inside the Lyrical Eye's mind. I don't know. What do you think? Either way, the Lyrical Eye feels great again after all bad feelings have gone away. I mean, probably apart from the loss of their sister. Alright guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's once again a typical Rammstein song text and an intense topic for a track once again. And I think great German lyrics too. What do you make of this? Tell me in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to share it with others in Rammstein related groups on Facebook, on Reddit, or simply with your friends. Thanks so very much for doing that in advance, it really helps and I greatly appreciate that. So see you next time, I'm your Vlog Dave, tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal. Hallo zusammen, I'm your Vlog Dave, and the Rammstein track I want to talk about today could be summarized under one single term, which would be Widerspruch. But why is that? So we have finally reached the 7th track on the 7th studio album by the band, by the 6 guys from Berlin. And what can I say about this one? Well, immediately it wasn't one that stood out to me, to be honest, but it really grew on me as a pretty cool, pretty solid song. And in fact, I'd say it's quite mathematical in a way, which is pretty cool. There is a structure that everyone knows, like verse, chorus, verse to it, but there are some additional figures, so to speak, additional elements in between, and I'm gonna talk about those in a second as well. But first, let's start with the very first thing that really pops out, that really sticks out, because it's the first thing that we can hear lyrically, the first verse. Ich kann auf Glück verzichten. Weil es Unglück in sich trägt, muss ich es vernichten. Was ich liebe, will ich richten. I can abstain from luck. Because it contains bad luck, I need to destroy it. What I love, I want to judge, or regulate, or execute. You might have recognized two very similar words in these first lines. The first one is das Glück, the luck. The second term is quite the opposite of Glück, das Unglück, the unluck, translated literally, so to speak. So I guess you could argue that this is the first example of the so-called Widerspruch that I've mentioned before. It's der Widerspruch, singular, die Widersprüche, plural, the contradiction. Or maybe you could also call it das Paradoxon, the paradox, because how can feeling lucky mean bad luck? And how can luck actually contain bad luck? Like, Maybe if you're a lucky person, or if you're a really, really lucky person for that matter, which is, of course, cool and good, by the way, I'd say, maybe, you know. If you're that, you might be a bit, well, naive when it comes to obstacles in your way, or something that might cause that luck to end, right? So you might see only the good things, and you might not reflect on things as much now, because you're lucky. You don't have a reason to do that. But that's just my assumption. Maybe you have a different assumption? Or maybe you agree with that? Tell me in the comments, because I'd really like to know. What I really like is how subtle yet direct the second and third lines are connected. You might not recognize it at first, also because of the very short breathing break in between, but semantically they are linked. Weil es Unglück in sich trägt, muss ich es vernichten. So the lyrical eye actually gives us a reason and what will result out of this opinion. They are ready and willing to act in a self-destructing manner, so to speak. Might turn out not so healthy in the end, but I guess they know best what they need to do. Then one of my so-called insertions follows, pretty much as a missing link between verses 1 and 2. Dass ich froh bin, darf nicht sein. Nein. Nein, nein. That I'm happy mustn't be. No, no, no. Pretty much as an act of mental or cognitive Selbstgeißelung, self-flagellation or self-punishment, they don't even allow themselves to experience happiness. They want to feel bad in order to get an effect out of that. Linguistically, these two lines make for a pretty interesting structure that sort of deviates from the typical German sentence structure. The first line begins with the conjunction das with double S, which usually introduces an object clause after a usual ordinate clause has been expressed. But here, the statement starts with the object clause. If you'd swap both parts, this becomes a bit more apparent. Es darf nicht sein, dass ich froh bin. It mustn't be that I'm happy. And if you, yes, I want you, if you want to learn more about the difference between das with one S and das with two S or double S, feel free to watch my German lesson on that at the end of this video, because you can find a link to that one in the end card. Nein. The German equivalent for the interjection no in English can be heard in quite a few other Rammstein tracks too. If you ask me as a native German, I simply like the sound of it, especially when it's used without accompanying terms, just on its own. Nein. I guess you could argue that the next part still belongs to the first verse. However, because of the increasing instrumental section in the background with some little cool details in the percussion, I'd call this verse 2. Ich liebe nicht, dass ich was liebe. Ich mag es nicht, wenn ich was mag. Ich freue mich nicht, wenn ich mich freue. Weiß ich doch, ich werde es bereuen. I don't love that I love something. I don't like it when I like something. I'm not happy when I'm happy, since I know I will regret it. To me, this feels like the lyrical eye is sort of torn between wanting to be like this on the one hand and feeling forced to behave this way on the other hand, almost like a Zwang, der Zwang, the compulsion. That is because the verb etwas bereuen, to regret something, has a really negative connotation to it. You do something you actually like or would like to do, well, in this case feeling happy, but you don't dare to because otherwise you'd need to punish yourself or get punished by your conscience, pretty much based on your own morals and rules you've set up for yourself, or, which might also be true, we don't really know for sure, the morals and rules someone else has forced upon you. That might also be the case. Structure-wise, these lines are more good examples for the term I've mentioned at the very beginning, der Widerspruch. In fact, they even are a sort of emotional and cognitive paradoxon, a paradox. How can you dislike liking something? And how would you even allow yourself to feel this way? And why? Following after these even more mysterious lines, there's another insertion, which in this case also functions as a direct lead into the chorus. Dass ich froh bin, darf nicht sein. Wer mich liebt, geht dabei ein. That I'm happy mustn't be. Who or whoever loves me will blossom, degenerate or die doing so. To me, and I guess to most Germans, the expression eingehen evokes associations of flowers and blossoms that verwelken, that wither or shrivel, simply because the end has come, or someone didn't care enough for them, which metaphorically might very well apply to the situation here too. The lyrical eye has been harmed and disappointed emotionally and mentally up to the point they would do the same to a potential lover later on. In that sense, this pretty much works as an indirect warning. Whoever wants to love me is risking deteriorating and exhausting themselves emotionally or mentally. On a side note, talking about flowers and warning someone. Funny enough, in German we have a saying that goes jemandem etwas durch die Blume sagen, which basically translates to something like to tell someone something through the flower. Because flowers are beautiful, and even if it's something bad or negative or even criticism you have to tell someone or you want to tell someone, and you don't want to do that directly, you want to do that in a bit more subtle way, so to speak, you do it through the flower. Jemanden durch die Blume kritisieren, for instance. To criticize someone through the flower, meaning in a very subtle, not so direct, not so aggressive way even. That's what this means, and that could potentially fit the context of the song, or, well, at least this part of the lyrics, I'd say, which is pretty interesting when you think about it. Now the chorus enters the pretty happy and delightful scenery, and it expresses a more confident opinion, but not in a good way. Was ich liebe, das wird verderben. Was ich liebe, das muss auch sterben. Muss sterben. What I love, that will decay. What I love, that also needs to die. Needs to die. By the way, here I put an emphasis on it's me loving was ich liebe, but you could also very well intonate it like this, was ich liebe, what I love. So it's not so much about can or could, it's definite. Love me and you will lose your life doing so. I promise. No, not me, but the lyrical eye does, you know. The constant balancing between the two terms was, what, and das, that, is subtle as these are only a small part of each line, but they work really well for the overall feel of the chorus. If you'd express these things in a normal German way, you'd drop the das. Was ich liebe, wird verderben. Since this wouldn't fit the meter of these lines in combination, Till chose to add das. Well, at least I'm pretty sure that's one reason why he did that. I really like the prolonged last line, which serves as a little climax in addition to this being the chorus in the first place. Also, the heavy riff section coming after the chorus sounds even stronger because of this, I think. The tune continues with the third verse. So halte ich mich schadlos. Lieben darf ich nicht. Dann brauche ich nicht zu leiden. Nein. Und kein Herz zerbricht. So I keep myself harmless, or from causing harm. I'm not allowed to love, because then I won't have to suffer. No, and no heart will break. This is basically an additional explanation to the lyrical eye's behavior. You might also recognize the German noun das Herz, singular, die Herzen, plural, which is one of a couple of German terms Till Lindemann likes to use a whole lot. I've tackled examples for this and more in another video, by the way, so if you want to learn more about them, check them out at the end of this one. And talking about the end, it's near. In terms of this video as well, since most of the remaining parts of this song are a repetition of ones I've already mentioned. However, there's an additional post-chorus section after the second chorus, which now plays over the aforementioned heavy guitar section. Auf Glück und Freude folgen Qualen. Für alles Schöne muss man zahlen, ja. What follows after luck and happiness is much agony. For every beauty, one has to pay. Yes. As you can see here, the more or less direct English translation is a bit sloppy here again. Especially the first two connected lines were quite tricky for me, to be honest. I tried to be as faithful to the original German terms, while keeping the basic structure and words. But hey, all in all, this was a sort of hidden gem for me at first listen. The song didn't really catch my attention at first, but now it's one of my favorite mid-tempo songs on the album. Another quite big reason actually for that is the cool sound design. I love the little percussive and electronic details in the background of this one. And last but not least, of course, I want to know, what do you think of this song? What do you make of it? Especially the lyrics. Did you understand them? Did you actually catch up some words that you have heard of before, but you didn't know the meaning, of course? Do they have a good sound, a good ring? Do certain terms or certain parts stand out more than others do? All those kinds of things, feel free to tell me in the comments. As always, you can find links to my social media pages for support and support options such as PayPal or Patreon in the video description down below. If you want to say, thanks Dave, thanks for the videos, and I want to support you, I would like to do that. Of course, feel free to do so. It's all voluntarily though, so don't feel obliged or forced to do something. Just wanted to put this out there. And of course, what I also want to put out there is, well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, let me know by leaving a like and all the other things that you have heard of multiple times by now, sharing my videos with others. That would be greatly appreciated as well, since it helps a rather little channel like mine a whole lot. Thanks for watching everyone. I'm your Vlog Dave. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal. Hallo zusammen, I'm your Vlog Dave, and the Rammstein track I'm gonna dissect today is something very special in more than just one way. It's the shortest Rammstein track as of now. It's the only acoustic piece, let alone ballad, on the album. And there's even more to it. And because that's the case, let's talk about track number 8 on the 7th self-titled studio album by Rammstein, and the song is called Diamant. This song is a rarity among almost all other Rammstein tracks, but apart from 2 or 3 words, Diamant doesn't include any rolled R's on singer and lyricist Till Lindemann's end. One of these few terms is a literal keyword, a centerpiece on the lyrical side of things: Herz, heart. By the way, if you want to learn more about the background of Till, the rolled R, and potential reasons why he rolls it in many Rammstein tunes, check out this video featured in the end card. The overall structure of Diamant is quite ordinary. Just like probably most songs in rock and metal, it starts with the first verse. Du bist so schön, so wunderschön. Ich will nur dich, immer nur dich ansehen. Lässt die Welt mich verblassen. Kann den Blick nicht von dir lassen. You're so beautiful, so very beautiful, or gorgeous. I only want you, always just look at you. Letting the world around me fade. Can't keep my staring or looking away from you. In a way, the German adjective wunderschön could be seen as a comparative form of schön. And even though both adjectives mean the same and, well, also express basically a similar amount or quality of beauty, the grammatically proper comparative forms of schön are schöner and am schönsten. The other forms of the sort of related term wunderschön are wunderschöner and am wunderschönsten. Some Germans might argue that wunderschön, basically meaning wonderfully beautiful, expresses more beauty than just schön, but depending on the context, I'd say you can very well use both in an equal manner. The overall content is quite obvious. Deep, deep love. What I think is fascinating about this song lyric-wise though is that it really shines. Bright like a diamond, in its linguistic details as opposed to its basic topic. It's a love song, nothing so special, but not in a totally positive way. The indirect rhyming pair wunderschön and ansehen is something typical for many German lyrics or even poems. The last syllables of these respective terms don't mirror the exact same vowels, yet the umlaut ö and ön at the end harmonizes with e and en in a nice sounding way. Wunderschön. Ansehen. Also, you might have noticed that the ending syllable hen in ansehen, to look at something or somebody, is sort of melted together phonetically. So if you were to articulate all syllables in a distinct way, it would rather be ansehen, but pretty much no German would verbalize it like that. That's typical for pretty much all words ending in en in German when it comes to spoken German in general, and it's not just limited to this word. So in spoken German it's rather ansehen instead of ansehen. The second to last line includes an ellipsis because the subject is missing. Wer lässt die Welt dich herum verblassen? Who is letting the world around you fade? The same is true for the last line. However, since we've already figured out that the story is told by the lyrical I from a Ich-Perspektive or Ego-Perspektive, an ego perspective, we know enough context to understand all relations. I guess including the subject would have been a bit too bland and also wouldn't have fit das Versmaß, the meter of each line. Similar to other songs on this album, for instance Was ich liebe, the song I've also tackled before, well, this song continues with an inserted little section. Und dieses Funkeln deiner Augen will die Seele aus mir saugen. And this shining of your eyes wants to suck the soul out of me. So all of a sudden we have a shift, a perspective shift from a rather positive description of things, of a diamond in this case, and well, love and associations you could have with it, metaphors that would fit, to a more negative thing, negatively connotated things that sound quite, well, we Germans would say verhängnisvoll, fatal or disastrous. And by the way, talking about those words, we have very similar German terms as well, which would be fatal and desaströs. So almost the same. What has been comparatively subtle in the first verse becomes a bit more obvious in this section. The love interest which the lyrical I seems to sing about gets compared to a diamond, and its Wirkung, its impact or impression on them. In a more general way, der Diamant, singular, die Diamanten, plural, can also be linked to love itself, of course. The sort of nominalized verb funkeln, das Funkeln, applies to both diamonds and the love interest's eyes. Both shine bright,
like a diamond.
and next to expressing beauty, they can also deviate or abstract you from clear thinking and reflecting on things. I guess the most fitting term here that can also be connotated both positively and negatively would be die Versuchung, singular, die Versuchungen, plural, the temptation. You're blinded by the beauty of your love interest and love in general, which subtly makes you increasingly unable to literally see clearly, to judge and to stand your own ground. This becomes even more obvious through the paradigm shift in the second line. I especially like the internal small consonant rhyme between Seele and saugen, which by the way also applies to English, soul and sucking. This opinion might get some criticism from you guys, I don't know. But honestly, I think the chorus is the weakest part of this song, in comparison to the verses, and the poetry, the lyricism in those. I mean, don't get me wrong, it totally fits the theme and the topic of the song in general, but I'd still say, well, how should I put it? I think it's a tad too direct, too offensichtlich, too obvious in a way. Anyway, it goes. Du bist schön wie ein Diamant, schön anzusehen wie ein Diamant. Doch bitte, lass mich gehen. You're as beautiful as a diamond, as nice to look at as a diamond. But please, let me go. The lyrical I admits the strong temptation, yet it overwhelms and emotionally occupies them so strongly that they require some distance, almost like being freed from a prison cell. Grammatically speaking, we're faced with direct and equal comparisons. I've made a video about how as something and like both being comparisons translate to in German, how Germans would express these comparisons. So feel free to check it out in the end card of this video. The second verse goes, wie ein Juwel, so klar und rein. Dein feines Licht war mein ganzes Sein. Wollte dich ins Herzen fassen. Doch was nicht lieben kann, muss hassen. Like a jewel, so clear and pure, your fine light was my everything or my whole being. Wanted to frame or enclose you into the heart, but what cannot love, must hate. Of course, there would be more poetic ways to translate this, but honestly, I want to stick as closely to the original, word for word and, well, almost literally as possible for you guys. And once again, a very beautiful metaphorical poetry, I think. A transcendental philosophical term which really shows how deep and strong the affection has hit and basically has occupied not only the emotions, but also the mind of the lyrical I, is das Sein, the being. Apart from the noun das Juwel, singular, die Juwelen, plural, jewel, it's the phrase ins fassen, which relates to the world of die Goldschmiedekunst, the goldsmith's art, where a golden frame often encloses, surrounds and holds a jewel, diamond or some kind of der Edelstein, singular, die Edelsteine, plural, the gem. Precious gems and jewels are the centerpiece of many Halsketten, die Halskette, singular, die Halsketten, plural, the necklace, and so is the heart both emotionally and physically, of course. So as you can see, it's also this song and its broad theme that is loaded with bilateral things, emotions and thoughts, reality and metaphors or imagination. Also, the difference between kann, and muss, must, shows a resulting conclusion from a situation in which the lyrical eye is pretty, well, aussichtslos, hopeless, and it shows some kind of resignation. However, since the subject isn't explicitly included, they might also try to distance themselves from this opinion, because deep inside of them, they still wanna love. Along with an increasing verbal intonation, a louder singing voice and a stronger stressing, the last chorus is a bit longer than the first one. The additional part goes: Welche Kraft, was für ein Schein, wunderschön wie ein Diamant, doch nur ein Stein. What a power, what a shine, as beautiful as a diamond, yet still a stone. Finally, the lyrical eye seemingly has found a healthy and helpful way to get away from the love and their love interest, or maybe they, well, at least figured out what is going on in general. I just, well, love the ambiguity of the noun der Schein, the shine. A diamond shines bright and looks beautiful therefore, but similar to a part in the Rammstein tune Spieluhr, it might also be a false and fake shine. In that song, the lyrics go nur zum Schein, just for show or only pretending to. So in a similar context here, the statement was für ein Schein can mean what a big beauty in a positive way or what a massive fake or lie. Really cool playing with metaphors here. So all in all, I'd say Diamant is a really cool short little ballad tune with very strong verses and a comparatively weak and, well, not overly interesting chorus. That pretty much sums up what I think about the song. Feel free to check out my other videos about several other Rammstein songs, the band members, facts about the band and whatnot in my Rammstein playlist with every single video. And of course, I'd also appreciate you guys checking out my social media channels and my support options such as PayPal and Patreon. All of those are linked in the description down below. And well, what's there left for me to say? Well, thanks for watching. I'm your Vlog Dave. Tschüss and shine bright like a diamond. Oh yeah, very bright. Hallo zusammen, I'm your Vlog Dave. 3 more to go. Why 3 more? Well, because I've already talked about the previous Rammstein tracks on their 7th album, Rammstein, or Untitled, depends on what you want to call it, I guess. And now I'm gonna deal with the last remaining 3 ones. And the first one is Weit weg. What is this song about? What does it translate to in English? What are the lyrics about, or what could they be about at least? Because, of course, to some degree, that's gonna be my interpretation of things. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Let's find out what this song is about linguistically as well. Let's learn some German with Rammstein. Let's dive into the first verse of the song. What is it about? Niemand kann das Bild beschreiben. Gegen seine Fensterscheibe hat er das Gesicht gepresst und hofft, dass sie das Licht anlässt. Ohne Kleid sah er sie nie, die Herren seiner Fantasie. Er nimmt die Gläser vom Gesicht, singt zitternd eine Melodie. Nobody can describe the picture or the scenery. Against his window pane, he has pressed his face and hopes she will keep the light on. He never saw her without her or the dress, the mistress of his fantasy or imagination. He takes off the glasses from the face, shakingly singing a melody. So when you compare these lyrics to many other Rammstein lyrics, I'd say they are far less ambiguous. It's not an evaluation of sorts, it's just a statement, an observation I made. And haha, talking about observing things, well, that is sort of the main theme of the song, in some way or another. What's also worth noting about this song in specific, which makes it quite different to many other Rammstein tracks as well, is that here the lyrical I isn't the protagonist. In many other Rammstein tracks you will find the personal pronoun ich, I, for the first person. But here that doesn't really appear. We also know it's a man the lyrical I is singing about. This becomes obvious through the use of the third person singular personal pronoun er, he, indicating masculine. In addition, line 5 also tells us he's observing a woman, which is indicated through the use of the third person singular personal pronoun sie, she. The first line is sort of der Widerspruch, singular, die Widersprüche, plural, the contradiction to the rest of the verse, since it basically explains that the whole setting or the scenery can't be explained or described, which the lyrical I does right afterwards though. He might be so surprised or satisfied that he is unable to put his side into words. Reading more or less between the lines zwischen den Zeilen, he must have observed her many times before, which is indicated by the temporal adverb nie, never, again in line 5. Ohne Kleid sah sie nie. He never saw her without the dress, or her dress. You might be wondering why I mentioned both them as a general article and her used as a possessive pronoun here. It's her dress. Simply because both could potentially fit. In this and many cases, dropping an article works in many German, but not in too many English contexts, I don't think. For instance, take a look at this. Ohne Kleid, without dress. You could very well say ohne Kleid in German without sounding too strange, but saying without dress, well, it sounds kinda strange, I think. Lastly, we also learn that he is very, well, sexually aroused or erotically excited. I mean, apart from him staring at her through the window, that could be because, well, he's doing that sort of secretively and hidden, and maybe that also gives him a kick. Or maybe there's another reason that I don't really have an idea about yet. Let's move on to the second verse. Der Raum wird sich mit Mondlicht füllen, lässt sie fallen, alle Hüllen. Der Anblick ist ihm sehr gewogen, spannt seine Fantasie zum Bogen. Der Atem stockt, das Herz schlägt wild, malt seine Farben in ihr Bild. Steht er da am Fensterrand mit einer Sonne in der Hand. The room will fill itself with moonlight, lets them drop all his shells, indicating clothes in this case. The view is very appealing to him, bends or draws, spans his fantasy to a bow. The breath stagnates or sticks, the heart beats wildly, paints his colors into her picture, him standing there at the window border with the sun in his hand. Quite a tough one to translate accurately here and there. The first line is quite simple though. We learn that he's peeping at her or observing her at night, since the lyrical I mentions das Mondlicht, singular, die Mondlichter, plural, the moonlight. By the way, to peep at someone or to observe someone refers to the nouns der Voyeur, singular, die Voyeure, plural, the voyeur, and der Voyeurismus, a noun that only exists in singular, voyeurism. Line 2 makes use of a German expression which doesn't really exist in English as a direct or literal equivalent. It is die Hüllen fallen lassen, to let the shells drop or fall, for die Hülle, singular, die Hüllen, plural, the shell, which in the context of this expression means clothes. It's a poetic, erotic way to say, well, he undresses or she undresses, takes all clothes off basically. I particularly love line 4, because it's really metaphorical and just well written, I think. It serves the whole context as it underlines the man's sexual or erotic desires and fantasies. Spannt seine Fantasie zum Bogen, bends or draws his fantasy to a bow. His fantasies and his wishes expand and grow as he's observing her time and time again, almost culminating in taking some unwanted actions at some point, if you ask me. This metaphor seems to relate to Cupid's arrows. He wants her to love him as well, and not it being a one-sided thing of sorts. He basically wants to hit her with his love arrows. Haha. The aforementioned verb spannen, to peep at someone, can also be a total normal, ordinary German verb meaning to bend or to draw, for instance in the context of shooting arrows with a bow. Haha, so here we have it again. In a rather subtle way, there's a slight ambiguity in using that term as well. Line 6 is another cool line. He projects all of his wishes and desires onto or into her, hoping or wishing she would love him as well. He is painting her painting with his colors. In regards to the meaning, the last line is a bit mysterious to me though. Of course, Till once again made use of one of his signature terms, die Sonne, singular, die Sonnen, plural, the sun. Why is it in his hands? I mean, I could see fit that also belongs to the whole, well, I wanna pull the strings, I wanna be the one in charge, in power, I wanna decide what's gonna happen situation. Maybe that also belongs to that. And the sun might be an indicator for his longing to, well, be able to have a public relationship with her and not having to hide or to observe her in the shadows in the darkness of the night. But maybe you have a different idea as to what this could mean. Feel free to tell me in the comments. The chorus, however, goes like this. Ganz nah, so weit weg von hier, so nah, weit, weit weg von dir. Ganz nah, so weit weg sind wir, so nah, weit, weit weg von mir. So close, so far away from here, so close, far, far away from you. So close, we're so far away. Actual stressing, so far away we are. So close, far, far away from me. This is a perspective shift, since here the man seems to be the lyrical I. It's expressing his thoughts, his feelings and emotions. Here we're faced with another contradiction, which basically also is an outline for the whole song and what is expressed in the lyrics, because how can you be so close to someone, yet so far away, or feel so far away? Well, because I guess the lyrical I, the person, the man we're faced with here, he is close to the person in his mind, like mentally, cognitively, in his thoughts and imaginations and his fantasies and whatnot, but he actually isn't physically. You can be close to someone, yet still far away. And because of that, or in combination with that, the whole chorus expresses a sort of, well, a sadness, I think you could say, and also some kind of longing. So I heard you find my videos helpful, entertaining, and you really enjoy them? Well, thank you very much in the first place. The crowdfunding page Patreon is definitely one of the best ways to say thank you, Dave, and to support me. Honest, heartfelt thanks for doing that, because every little bit helps. Thanks for your attention, and now enjoy the rest of the video. We actually don't know if he knows her in person or if they have met before, or if he simply pretends to. Why do I say that? He, in this case the lyrical I, makes use of the informal form of address in an inflected way. Dir is the singular dative form of the personal pronoun du, you, which you use when 1. You're talking to kids or young teens, or 2. You know the person in person. You're close to them. For instance, friends or family members. Maybe he was her ex-lover, who knows? Linguistically at least, this is quite an interesting detail. Other personal pronouns used in the chorus are wir, we, mir, me or I. The line so weit weg sind wir is quite tricky to translate this way. When we take a linguistic look at it, structure-wise, it reminds of a question, which is missing the question mark. So weit weg sind wir? We're so far away? By writing it this way, it stresses the so far away aspect of the expression, since it's the first thing you hear or read. However, the direct English equivalent, so far away we are, doesn't work and doesn't sound natural or that good at all. Last but not least, let's deal with the 4 remaining lines. Wieder ist es Mitternacht. Sie stehlen uns das Licht der Sonne, weil es immer dunkel ist, wenn der Mond die Sterne küsst. It's midnight again. They steal the sun's light from us, because it's always dark when the moon kisses the stars.
Stars.
Sorry, I just had to. Parts of this verse are kind of mysterious to me, gotta be honest here as well. I could see fit that he mentions the last two lines in regards of him having to observe her in secret and secretively, and when he can't really be seen. Well, at night, basically, which is what I've also addressed before. As a metaphor, the moon could refer to him, and since the lyrical I mentions stars in plural, he might actually observe more than just her alone, like maybe more women. Sie stehlen uns das Licht der Sonne might mean he would like to openly express his Zuneigung, die Zuneigung, singular, die Zuneigungen, plural, his affection to her, but either he himself or external forces, society and whatnot, makes him feel he can't approach her directly. But again, that's just a spontaneous thought I had. At first, the song didn't really stand out to me on the album compared to many other tracks on there, but with time it actually grew on me, and I thought I was a bit hesitant or reluctant to really like it a whole lot at first because of its restrained or restricted, but I think that's actually one of the strengths of this one. Also make sure to check out my other Rammstein analysis videos and translations of many other tracks by them, and also by Lindemann. You might also be interested in that as well. Just click the playlist right here somewhere, probably somewhere around here, and the other video as well, because you will definitely also like it if you liked this video. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to share this as well. I'm your Vlog Dave. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal. Hallo zusammen, I'm your Vlog Dave, and what can I say, 2 more to go, 2 more until we've analyzed and really talked, translated all Rammstein tracks from their self-titled 7th studio album, Rammstein, well, or Untitled. And the second to last one is one of my personal favorites on the album, both musically and lyrically, and well, it deals with a topic that I am familiar with, but that I can't really relate to myself, at least not directly. Not yet. I intend to relate to that a bit closer, more direct for myself even, but that's another topic. Let's talk about Tattoo, or Das Tattoo, as Germans would rather pronounce and verbalize it pretty much. What is it about, and what makes these lyrics special? From a German perspective, the song's title is a so-called Anglizismus, der Anglizismus, singular, die Anglizismen, plural, the Anglicism, an English term that has found its way into the German language and grammatical system. Grammatical system because it also has become a German noun with articles. As such, it is a neuter noun. Das Tattoo, singular, die Tattoos, plural. Usually Germans verbalize it as both tattoo, which means in a more German way, so to speak, and in a more English-sounding way as well, tattoo. Just gonna state this, and don't get me wrong, I don't mean that in a negative way, it's just an observation. The lyrics to Tattoo by Rammstein are among the least ambiguous and least complex lyrics in terms of Rammstein songs in total, I think. For instance, in the choice of words or, well, the general topic even. I mean, you know, it just works the way it is. Let's start with the first verse. Ich trage einen Brief an mir. Die Worte brennen auf dem Papier. Das Papier ist meine Haut. Die Worte, Bilder, bunt und so laut. As you can see, the verse itself is pretty short and direct. I personally like the metaphor of the letter, since both a letter and a tattoo can be very expressive. You express yourself by using words on a written object, which apply to both a letter and a tattoo. Adding up to that, both can also show a picture or drawing, which gets mentioned in the last line here, along with the adjectives bunt, colorful, and laut, loud. This line and the whole verse go to show how important a tattoo can be to people in terms of sort of a prolonged expression of their character or interests, what they are. Funny enough, the wording of line 1, especially the use of the preposition an, on, could then again be understood in two ways. In combination with the other two words sich tragen, it becomes the fixed verbal phrase an sich tragen, to carry with oneself, simply indicating you have something that you carry around with you. I'm pretty sure all of you have noticed it. I try to mimic the little stutter there. The stutterer or bumbler from das Stottern, stutter, or the related verb stottern, to stutter. Meine Haut helps to achieve the right or rightly felt length of the line in context, and it also could be seen as an expression of, for instance, disbelief that one really has dared to get a tattoo and to endure the somewhat painful process. Or it could actually refer to being sort of afraid and, well, fearing the pain, the potential pain of getting a tattoo. So without it, this line goes, Das Papier ist meine Haut. The pre-chorus section could also be seen as the second half of the first verse, of course. Zeig mir deins, ich zeig dir meins. Zeig mir deins, ich zeig dir meins. Zeig mir deins, ich zeig mir deins. Zeig mir deins, ich zeig dir meins. As you can see, there's a subtle change in line 3, which, semantically speaking, is a shift in perspective. Whereas the other phrases are examples of die Aufforderung, Singular, die Aufforderungen, Plural, the demand, or die Bitte, Singular, die Bitten, Plural, the request you approach another person with, the second part of the third line simply explains that you don't ask, you just take a look at the other person's tattoo yourself. This could be interpreted as being quite impolite after having asked beforehand, but I think it simply adds up to the overall expressed passion for tattoos and, which is the focal point of this part in my opinion, sharing that passion with like-minded people, which increases the love and interest in tattoos for all parties involved. What I also really love about this section in specific is how it correlates with the increasingly intense singing by Till, which really is a good lead into the chorus, which is pretty much the core, the meat of the song. This power in the vocal delivery really adds a new flavor to the seemingly samey lines, and that really lifts them from being a bit bland, I think. They also work great as an introduction to the powerful chorus, which goes like this. Wenn das Blut die Tinte küsst, wenn der Schmerz das Fleisch umarmt, ich zeige meine Haut, Bilder, die mir so vertraut, aus der Nadel blaue Flut, in den Poren kocht das Blut. There are a couple of lines which are shorter versions of actual German sentences, so to speak. For instance, line 4 would be Bilder, die mir so vertraut sind, so that verb is missing here. Anyway, the first two lines are introduced by the conjunction wenn, if or when, which also indicate the chorus is about the exact moment of getting a tattoo. These linguistic flavors in lines 1 and 2 are seemingly normal words, which you wouldn't necessarily associate with tattoos and getting them done in the first place. But here they totally fit, I think. They have a purposeful meaning. Both terms I want to mention relate to the same context, which pretty much is love and affection. Line 1 ends in küsst, the conjugated form of küssen, to kiss, while line 2 ends in umarmt, also a conjugated form of umarmen, to hug. Both positively connotated verbs. The conjugated verb zeige in line 3 from zeigen can mean both to show and to present, which both can apply and mean something similar most of the time. The adjective vertraut in line 4 can mean many things from close, intimate, familiar. Most of these and other related terms to this one mean the same, sort of, but I'd say intimate is more immediate and tangible than familiar, for instance. We also learn that the tattoo in question is at least partially blau, blue. And no, the German equivalent to the color blue can't mean sad, that's an English thing. Both the flood reference and the last line seem to refer to the intense feeling you might get when getting a tattoo and realizing that what happens there is permanent and now a part of you. So it also addresses the adrenaline and realizing that. Let's talk about verse number 2. Wer schön sein muss, der will auch leiden. Und auch der Tod kann uns nicht scheiden. Alle Bilder auf meiner Haut. Meine Kinder, so vertraut. The first line is a twisted version, a play on a well-known German saying, wer schön sein will, muss leiden. Who wants to be beautiful has to suffer. Of course, this line fits the whole process of getting tattooed even better, since you know you're gonna suffer pain, but for a good cause, for yourself that is, something you do, well, because you want it, something that you willingly go through. Awesome idea, I think, and I always love these plays with words and expectations. The verb scheiden in line 2 means to divorce, which also refers back to the context I mentioned before. Well, basically love, affection, and also marriage, of course, which is usually, well, used in the context of two formally married people, but it also applies to having a tattoo, because apart from maybe having a tattoo lasered away, it really is like a marriage, an eternal one. You're getting married with your tattoo until death. This sort of tattoo marriage, as a form of personal high worshipping and even glorification, gets strengthened by the comparison to tattoos being as close and intimate to oneself as children, even up to the point of referring to them as one's kids. I really love the melodic lines and phrasings in the bridge, and also the high female singing in the background, for instance in the second chorus. Deinen Namen stech ich mir, dann bist du für immer hier. Aber wenn du uns entzweist, such ich mir jemand, der genauso heißt. Simply clever. The self-ironic twist in the last two lines is really cool, and the German lyrics are really funny and classy at the same time, I think. This pokes some sarcastic fun at people getting the names of their partner tattooed and later being faced with the problem of this eternal artwork versus being, well, left alone or even divorced. The sarcastic simple solution is just to find a new partner with the exact same name. Yeah, I mean, obvious solution, huh? So the tattoo fits right in again. Yeah. And I gotta be honest, I really laughed out loud when I heard that for the first time, and even now, after having heard it like multiple times, I can't help but smile every single time I listen to this specific line. Of course, I also want to know, what do you think about this song? Tell me in the comments, and feel free to, well, suggest and recommend this video to other people. And yeah, thanks for watching everyone. I'm your Vlog Dave. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal. Hallo zusammen, I'm your Vlog Dave, and if you think this looks, well, slightly different than usual, well, that is true because one, well, I'm growing a beard a little bit longer than usual because, you know, I thought I'm in self-isolation home office right now, so why not? And second, you might have noticed that it's really more real than before. Which is because I'm filming in 50 FPS from now on. Anyway, it's the final song. We have reached the last one. The, maybe one of the best songs on the album, if you ask me. I'm talking about Hallo Mann from, or off, the self-titled 7th studio album by Rammstein, which was released last year. I've already talked about all the other tracks before, so this is the last video about this album lyric-wise. Let's actually dive into the track and, well, let's find out what makes it special. An interesting mixture of eeriness and fascinatingism. Does that exist? I don't know. Let's go. The title Hallo Mann, veterans of the German language might have noticed it already, is very typical for the German language, yet not at all at the same time. But how can that be? Well, it's typical in terms of its linguistic structure. It's a compound word, which is very typical for lots of words in German. The two parts are the neutral, usual greeting Hallo, German version of hello basically, and the masculine noun der Mann, singular, die Männer, plural, the man. So it means hello man in English. It's not a superhero though, far from it actually. Let's dive into the first verse to find out more. Hallo kleines Mädchen, wie geht es dir? Mir geht es gut. Sprich nicht zu mir. Steig einfach ein, ich nehm dich mit. Und kauf dir Muscheln mit Pommes frites. Es ist schon warm und du bist schön und hast das Meer noch nicht gesehen. Du bist alleine, ich ganz allein. Sprich nicht zu mir, steig einfach ein. In a way, the lyrics are pretty self-explanatory in both the original German and my translated English version, which doesn't make them less strong or interesting though. Here, the lyrical eye basically explains what they're gonna do, and, well, it's a mixture of things they are doing at the moment and other things they would like to go after in the near future, pretty much wishes. Der Wunsch, Singular, die Wünsche, Plural, the wish, and fantasies, die Fantasie, Singular, die Fantasien, Plural. Even though the lyrics are pretty obvious, we can also say that the lyrical eye at least has to be 18 years of age. Well, why are you asking? At 18 years of age you're considered an adult in Germany, which is der Erwachsene, Singular, die Erwachsenen, Plural, which means you're allowed to drive a car on your own and you don't have to drive, well, along with, for instance, a parent of yours, which is possible from the age of 17. It has to be a specific person, by the way. And at the age of 18, you're also allowed to drink any kind of liquor, alcohol. And at the age of 16, you're allowed to drink light alcohol, such as beer or wine. The inflected adjective kleines, from klein, little, in line 1 also implies a considerable age gap between the girl in question and the lyrical eye. We can't say for sure, but it's very likely that the lyrical eye is some kind of a child molester. Der Kinderschänder, Singular, die Kinderschänder, Plural. And on top of that, a kidnapper, der Entführer, Singular, die Entführer, Plural. However, we don't know the sex or gender of that person. Could be a man, could be a woman, who knows? They have a distinct plan to lure the girl into their vehicle. Doesn't have to be a car, but could also be a truck or something else. The separated conjugated verb steig ein, meant as die Aufforderung, Singular, die Aufforderungen, Plural, the demand or order, is typical and quite specifically used for getting into a car or some similar vehicle. The so-called Lockmittel, das Lockmittel, Singular, die Lockmittel, Plural, the bait, also commonly used as der Köder, Singular, die Köder, Plural, especially for fishing, is almost stereotypical for this kind of behavior. In this case, it's both food, das Essen, which only exists in singular, and Wünsche, for instance, to see the ocean or the sea for the first time. Certain lines almost seem conflicting at first glance. For instance, line 2. Mir geht es gut. Sprich nicht zu mir. Oh, I'm doing fine. Don't talk to me. Okay. What's interesting about this line is that it features the same personal pronoun, yet from two different perspectives. Mir. Me. It would even get translated differently in English, as you can see. Mir is the dative singular personal pronoun, and it's also a self-reflexive pronoun. It refers to yourself as opposed to someone else, yet you can use it in exclamatory sentences or demands, as it's the case in the second half of the line. The lyrical eye asks or even demands that the girl doesn't approach or talk to them. So in the first half it's a statement about yourself, I'm doing fine, whereas the second part approaches the girl, don't talk to me. A different yet similar scenario can be found in line 7, even though here we would use different personal pronouns in German. Ich, I, and du, you. The chorus to Hallo Mann goes like this. Sing für mich, komm sing, Perle auf dem Ring, tanz für mich und dann kommt zu dir der Hallo Mann. Very concise and short. The request come, from common to come, is similar to come on or get on. I'd say there's a certain variety referring to how polite this come could be meant or interpreted, as a pretty aggressive, unfriendly order or even as a friendly request. In this particular case, we don't have a clear, well, indication for this being meant overly friendly though, also because there's no term like bitte, please, or similar words that accompany it. The second line is pretty cryptic to me actually, but in a really abstract way. The ring, pretty much in the tradition of Lord of the Rings and the like, could be seen as a symbol of power and superiority over another person, binding them pretty much, which would also make the girl the mentioned pearl. It might also be mentioned to show that the girl might have a curious interest in the ring and especially the pearl, which might also have led to her being lured into the car. Both the image and context, which were foreshadowed in the first verse, are now underlined even more. This also continues in the second verse. Die Sonne scheint uns auf den Bauch. Sag einfach nichts und mach es auch. Gib mir dein Wort, nimm meine Hand. Wir bauen was Schönes aus Haut und Sand. Nichts wird danach wie früher sein. Sprich nicht zu mir, steig einfach ein. Interestingly enough, this verse is shorter than the first one. Also interestingly enough, as you might have noticed, there are two samey words in both languages that rhyme equally well. They only differ in the verbalization. The lyrical eye once again indicates what they want to do, but only subtly or slightly. They make use of heavy euphemisms. Der Euphemismus, which is the technical term, the linguistic term, or die Beschönigung, which is the more common or colloquial word. I especially love the intonation, the phrasing of the last line, because it really begins low, sprich nicht zu mir, and then it gets higher, which is a really cool contrast, just like within a few seconds actually. I really like that. Not really expected either. Like, I didn't see that coming when I listened to that song for the first time, I don't think, and I was pleasantly surprised. And it also reminds me of, I wouldn't say classical singing, of course, but like singing in theaters, for instance. Really expressive intonation. And that totally fits the point here. Line 4 also shows that the lyrical eye pretty much desires to, well, touch the girl. And this could be seen as sort of a turning point, getting from words and wishes to, well, a physical connection that's desired here. Then the chorus enters with a tonal climax, if you want to call it like that. Sing für mich, komm sing, Perle auf dem Ring. Tanz für mich, komm tanz, blondes Haar und Rosenkranz. The last line refers to the looks of the girl and also to the so-called Rosenkranz, der Rosenkranz, which translates to the rose wreath literally, and it actually means rosary or chaplet, which in some way or another also could imply that, well, it's a seeming sense of innocence, faith and the lyrical eye essentially doing something against religious beliefs and not caring about them, not having morals or an own belief that would prevent them from doing all this, which gets expressed by simply harming others, kidnapping and the like. Maybe in the sense of faith won't help you, or prayers won't help you. The very last part of the song we haven't really talked about before in some way or another is the final short chorus. Sing für mich, komm sing, frag nicht nach dem Sinn. Sing für mich und dann auf den Wellen dein Gesang. Especially lines 2 and 4 are special here, I think. The second one really expresses the lyrical eye's wish to be able to pursue their fantasies without anything or anyone stopping them. They aren't even interested in explaining their deed. The last line is a bit enigmatic and open, and we can't really say for sure what it actually refers to, I don't think. But to me, and I know that sounds really hard to say, but it almost seems to me as if the lyrical eye intends to kill the girl and then drop her body into the ocean or the sea, which could imply that all of this might take place near a bigger lake or even a big sea, which would also fit the ending and also the beginning of the song, the reference we have heard in the first verse. Und hast das Meer noch nicht gesehen, and haven't seen the sea yet, which then again could also mean that all of this was well planned beforehand and nothing spontaneous. The ending or outro of the song is a beautiful short instrumental sequence with a high, light female or childish voice even, and this could be the child almost singing like a siren, if you ask me. Really beautiful, yet also haunting in the whole context of the song, and really eerie in that sense, if you ask me. And I know you do. Great song, and I'd also say a great way to end the album, although Hallo Mann isn't really representative when it comes to the other songs on the record, I wouldn't say, because, you know, it's a little more symphonic than most of them, even though the whole album isn't really a symphonic album in comparison to the likes of, you know, Reise Reise, for instance, which is highly symphonic, which is also one of the reasons why I love it, but a really, really cool song. And like I said at the beginning of this video, a really interesting mixture of eerie melodies and eerie atmosphere, and you're feeling uncomfortable listening to it. The song sounds heavy without really having heavy guitars in it, for instance. I don't know if you know what I mean, but I do know that I really like this one, and I hope you have enjoyed this video too. If so, feel free to let me know by, for instance, leaving a like, which is always welcome, always helpful to the YouTube algorithm, also leaving a comment, sharing my videos with others on social media, for instance, or with your friends who might also be into Rammstein and who want to find out, well, what are those songs actually about? What is Till Lindemann singing? Of course, it's all my personal interpretation when it comes to the meaning of the lyrics, but I can, well, actually try to really translate the German lyrics quite faithfully to the original words and meanings. So yeah, there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. See you in another Rammstein video soon, because of course, just because this was the last video about the album and all the songs on it, doesn't mean that I will stop making Rammstein videos. There are many more songs to talk about, so let's do that in the future. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching. I'm your Vlog Dave. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal. Rock on. With Rammstein, for instance.